Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021 at 1 p.m. And the Streets, Traffic, and Refuse Committee meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
I am present.
Alderman Vaquero,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Bosley,
Present.
Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Present.
Alderwoman Peel, Chairwoman Tyus.
Present.
6 present, you have quorum.
Okay. We have a quorum, and the next order of business is we need approval of the minutes from, let's see here, where were our minutes from? Last week was June what? June 15th? Okay, approval of the minutes from June 15th, 2021. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 15th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Previous row.
Was
Can
on
we do
previous
previous
show. We'll
row?
take-
And after we do this one, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaquero,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley, Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel, Chairwoman Tyus.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion, and the approval of the previous minutes are approved. Just a little housekeeping. I did get a response back from Alderman Boyd. I wanted you to hear this. We got a response in detail regarding the treasurer's budget, specifically the Office of Financial Empowerment. So I will be sending that over to everyone to make sure that they're comfortable with what we got back. So I'm going to be emailing those over. Okay, that response back over to everyone in the on the committee. All right.
Okay.
Okay, and then since we have people here, before we get into the board bills, which are mine, I would like to. I wanted the committee members who are new, don't know exactly what goes on with the street department. I thought we should have. We should know who the people are that we deal with, what the different departments are. We have in most departments, we have a director, then we have commissioners. We have a commissioner right now of refuse. We have a commissioner of what else? Streets. What is it? Traffic and lighting. And then we have a commissioner of streets, I think it is, right? Jamie Wilson is doing a dual role right now, so we're going to see how much longer he does that. Randy Brightenfield did 4 years of being the refuse commissioner, and I am on a quest to make us stop holding positions open and letting people work and do all the work, and then they don't get the positions. I think that's very unfair. I've been very vocal about it. I'm telling you, I wouldn't have known Randy if I walked by him, but I can tell you this. Every time I asked him to do something, he got it done. He never complained. I want to thank you for that. I think you are a great person, and I appreciate that. Let me say, I love all these other gentlemen too, so let me just not.
Well, you know,
but I just say,
Wait
a minute, hold on. I'm gonna be that. Okay, I want to say I love them. I know they do hard work, but I just think it's unfair for people. Nick Young left at the beginning of 2000 when the new mayor came in 2017. And I was happy for Jamie. I gave him a hug because he became a street director. I thought that was great for him. But I don't believe in this. Let other people do work and then they don't get the compensation or the titles for that. And I don't care who that is. That could be me. I shouldn't be able to jump back in and take something that somebody else has been doing. So I wanted to introduce you all. I want them to give us a little overview of what each of them does, and we can ask questions about it. I know we have at least 2 new members that may not know it all. I also brought Essence Owens, who is with the Citizens Service Bureau and Neighborhood Stabilization, because I have been getting a lot of complaints about people who say, well, I put this into Citizen Service Bureau, then it doesn't get done. And they don't know how what the follow through is, and it frustrates citizens. And we're trying to keep citizens in our great city. And you do that by making sure they get the basic service. A lot of people think all of this development is sexy. And I learned a lesson many years ago. A lady called me about a dumpster and she said, "You're not doing anything." And I said, "Ma'am, I got a Snooks. I got which is the new grocery store. I'm building a Walgreens. I built a new school. I did a new bank. I went through this list of things I did." And she said, "Okay, that's all nice. But in my alley, what I'm concerned about is the trash and the dumpsters." So that was my thing, to let me know that people immediate concerns of what's around them. They're thankful for all the other things we do, but they want their city services. We're lucky to sit on a committee that a lot of great city services happen. One of them is trash, that I'm trying to figure out that thing. The other thing is paving of streets. I'm the only alderperson left here, but the clerk knows that when we passed the money to give us war capital money, there's actually a account that should be for large streets. And Ken Flake, he and I have talked about that. And so someplace along the line, somebody has hijacked that money. And so we're not getting our large streets paved the way we should. And so I get a lot of calls from people who are very upset about why aren't we doing the big major streets, or why only part of them doing it. It was never meant for aldermen to go into their budgets and do that. That was something the city is supposed to do. And we're going to be taking a look at what happened to our original bill that got passed by the citizens, and how it's been hijacked by at least 2 mayors. The last 2 mayors have taken money from our ward capital, which is unfair. And we want to get our money back, and we want to get on board so that we're getting the money that we deserve. And so these men can help us understand what has been going on, and female, who's the head of citizen service and neighborhood stabilization. And maybe we won't get so many angry calls from people feeling like they're not getting services. So I wanted to start with Jamie Wilson, who's doing a dual role. And I want to introduce him and ask him if he would please tell us who he is, what he does, and what he does in his dual roles. And then we'll just go through. I see Mr. Young is here from Twain, and Mr. Flake, I kind of almost can't see your face, and then Randy Brightonfield. So we'll start with Mr. Kent Flake. If you would please tell me, state your name for the record, and then tell me what you do, and tell the committee what you do.
Well, hard getting us all here on the same screen at the same time, but
So we don't need to see the rest of the people. We need to see you. So move that camera in front of your handsome face. Oh, there's Kent Flake. I'm sorry. I want Jamie. I'm sorry. Did I say Kent? I'm sorry. I meant Jamie. We're going to start with the director.
The other attractive person. There you go.
Okay. Oh, that's what I was saying was handsome. Kent Flake is beyond handsome. You're just handsome. Okay.
Beyond, please let the minutes reflect that. So it's great. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jamie Wilson. I'm the traffic commissioner and acting director of streets. As Madam Chair mentioned, there's multiple divisions in the street department, 5 of which, to be precise, director's office is 1. That's kind of our general administration for the street department, and inspections and permits. And there's a lot of crossover. It's a small, by person, a small division. So there's a lot of crossover with the staff in the other divisions. There is a traffic division. I am the commissioner of traffic. We have the street maintenance division, which Ken Flake is the commissioner of that. We have the refuse division, where Randy Brightonfeld is deputy commissioner of refuse. And then we have the tow division. And as you said, Ed Young, our towing services manager, is here as well. So relative to the traffic division that I am the commissioner of, the traffic division handles all striping, signing, traffic signals, street lights, all general traffic engineering, including traffic calming, and any work with BPS related to the right-of-way permits, encroachment permits, anything that's to do with engineering that they send to us for peer department review. I handle that as well. Other divisions do as well, but that is what we do in traffic. I don't know if you want any more detail in that, or if you had questions about that division for this committee that you think is the most relevant.
I'm going to ask the committee, would you prefer that everybody tell what they do and then you ask questions? Is that okay? All right. Anybody opposed to that? Okay, so we're just gonna let next person go in line, and then we'll ask questions holistically of everyone.
We'll just keep turning this so you can see everyone's wonderful.
And
faces.
here's the more handsome person, Kent Flakes.
Not sure anybody's gonna believe that or not, but I'll go with it.
And I'm not
Okay,
doing
fine.
any kind of sexual harassment. I want to put that on the record right now, okay?
I don't believe it, Kent. It's a trick.
I am Kent Flake. I'm the Commissioner of Streets. My main role is over street maintenance. In general, we have 1,100 miles of street and about 700 miles of alley that fall under our jurisdiction, along with about 2,000 miles of sidewalk and other right-of-way. So we're responsible for patching all the potholes on that. We street clean monthly. We pave streets. And most of it, or 90% of that's done, 90+% is done with automatic funding. We're also responsible for bridge and viaduct cleanup. So we got to make sure that, like any city-owned bridges, we got to make sure all the drains where runoff would go are actually clean, because they love to get filled with dirt, and then you end up having bigger bridge issues later. We do a lot of concrete repairs. Most of those are following either a street light getting hit, or a sewer lateral repair, or something of that sort, where there's other maintenance being done. Our crews actually come in and pour the concrete because, in particular, I guess electricians and plumbers are not really good at pouring concrete, and guys that pour concrete all the time actually do a pretty good job. Then we get into some of our weirder stuff, such as we do bike racks for parades, other events. We got into this temporary concrete barriers for traffic calming and that kind of stuff, whether it be Shameem pots or Legos or jerseys or whatever. We have all that lovely concrete sitting out there all over the place, and also the boulders. That really became popular over the last 2 or 3 years. You also do snow removal of 450 miles of street. Every time it snows, we're out there. We're also responsible for the 13 miles of levee and flood wall that we have to protect us from the Mississippi whenever it comes up. And one of our newer things that we have is illegal dumping, which we started that about 3 years ago. And we've got about 15 or 20 people assigned to that all the time. And we pick up about 25 to 30,000 tons of illegal dumping each and every year. And I will take a little step to the side and kind of follow on the director's office. So we also have the inspectors here. I kind of oversee those. On a good year or normal year, we see about 11,000 CSBs and about 9,000 or 10,000 permits that come through, and we inspect for each and every one of those.
I'm sorry, what did you say? You have how many thousand? And what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Approximately 11,000 CSBs.
And what is CFD? Because you know that, but other people don't.
Yep, CSBs, those are service requests from citizens or aldermen or NSOs or NISs. And in 9,000 permits, we do all the excavation permits for the city. So if somebody's digging a hole, they should have an excavation permit. If they're going to put a pod or a dumpster or something of the sort in front of their house, those are permitted through us. We do over-dimensional permits, so anybody's bringing a wide load through the city's got to come through us if it's going to actually be on city streets. Sidewalk permits, driveway permits. I think we've got about 8 or 10 that come through us. So pretty much anything that's happening in a right of way needs to be permitted, and they come to the director's office in order to apply for that. Then we have the inspection staff on the other side of that once they get the permit to make sure they're doing the right thing. We also picked up abandoned derelict vehicles about 5 or 6 years ago. that was being handled through NIS or NSOs, and it came out here. Typically, there's about 3,000 CSBs for or service request for abandoned vehicles in the city per year. All right. Maybe that number doesn't seem quite high enough off the top of my head, but each one of those also gets revisited for a second inspection. Typically, if the car's there the first time, we come back in 7 days to re-inspect that. And we end up towing about 1,500 cars that are abandoned or derelict each and every year. No, 15.
Oh.
So, look, question, so towing is under streets?
Under the street department, yes.
Okay, currently, okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm kind of skipping around here. We also have the 50/50 sidewalk program, which is the cost share program between the city and the alderman. Typically, it runs about $4 a square foot of concrete for the citizens half. And then the alderman matches that unless it's raised or lifted by tree roots, and then it's covered by the city or the alderwoman or alderman at 100%. We also, along with our inspections, one of the biggest things we see that is the cave-in, the alley cave-in, street cave-in, where something opens up bigger in a pothole, and it's usually related to the sewer lateral program. Usually means that either the sewer lateral, which is covered by an insurance policy, sort of, each property in the city pays $28 on their real estate taxes. That $28 gets you into the sewer lateral program if need be, gets you the insurance. So if any time in the future where a cave-in or substantial backup would be caused by an issue in the right of way, so it'd be the alleyway, the street, the tree lawn, or around the public walkway or sidewalk, the public sidewalk, those areas are covered by the sewer lateral program. It doesn't cover if you just have roots in your system. It doesn't cover if you flush something that you shouldn't have flushed. It covers actually broken or destroyed pipe that is substantial, a substantial break. I think that's most of it for the inspection side. And the biggest thing with the inspectors is the look at service request, looking at permits, and essentially just babysitting contractors, making sure they're doing the right thing. I mean, that's the point in getting a permit, is to make sure they're doing the right thing. And I'm going to step on Ed's feet real quick before I give you to Ed. Ed's in charge of towing, and I just want to throw some numbers out there just so we kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. He'll tell you what he's responsible for, but in 2020, we towed approximately 15,000 vehicles. About 3,000 of those were city vehicles that broke down, whether it be dump trucks, cars, police cars, lawnmowers, etc. About 1,500 of those were broken down, derelict, abandoned vehicles. 6,700, which is not quite half, but pretty close, are from auto accidents. 1,600 are PD, either arrest, homicides, fatalities, etc. And about 2,500 are recovered stolens, which also kind of goes with PD, but we separate that one out.
What was the last one? 2,500 is what?
Recovered stolen,
Okay.
which to me is an amazing number, but it's a lot. And then I think that's all I got. And I guess I'll give you the head here.
That's a lot. I'm impressed now, boy. I knew you worked, but I didn't really know you worked. I am very impressed. Okay, next we have Mr. Young, who we take Kent Flake down. Let's put his name up so we can see him. We still got his name is not Ken Flake. Who's doing that? St. Louis TV? Can we change the name? Guess we can't. So, okay, Mr. Young, you go ahead and introduce yourself. And for those who are watching, this is not Kent Flake. He does not have two personalities, okay? So, go ahead.
All right, my name is Ed Young. I'm towing manager down at City Tow. Mine is not quite as long as Kent's, but what we do is towing and recovery for the city of St. Louis. We basically, like he said, tow everything, accidents, recovered stolens, abandons, illegal parked cars, fatalities, shootings. I mean, we get the worst of the worst the city gets. So when the police are there, we're right there with them. We have to, when they request us to come to protest or any special events, we show up for that. And you know, we do the Citizens Blitz with Miss Essence there. We do with the Citizen Service Bureau. They go out every week and do a blitz. We're always there with them. We have auctions every week, every Thursday at 9:30. We just cover the whole city on anything that's got to do with anything when it comes to vehicles.
All right. And so Ken already gave all your, he took your thunder, so he gave all your numbers. So I'm going to give that to you still, okay?
Okay.
You know, that's what people do when they steal your thunder. They say, oh, I don't mean to, but they do it anyway. All right.
Okay.
All righty. Got nothing else. And then we have my, like I said, my guy. This is Randy Brightenfield. Good morning. Good afternoon, rather.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Brightenfeld. I'm the Deputy Refuse Commissioner. Basically, in the refuse division, we have three sections. We have our collection section, which is responsible for servicing all the alley dumpsters and all the roll carts throughout the city. We have a bulk collection section, which picks up all the bulky items throughout the city. And then our maintenance department, which takes care of repairing, replacing, removing bad dumpsters and roll carts. We, to date, through up until April, we've collected roughly about 130,000 tons of refuse and about 15,000 tons of yard waste and 15,000 tons of recycling. We run about 55 routes on a typical day. Let's see. I also work real close with the environmental investigation unit. Basically, I'm in contact with the detective and the lieutenant on a daily basis, trying to combat the illegal dumping. We also are in charge of maintaining about 36,000 alley dumpsters and about 43,000 roll carts. We also maintain litter barrels throughout the city, which includes metro bus stops. Not all the metro bus stops. We service about 500 of those, I believe. Other than that, I think that's pretty much what we do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And before we even go, then I want to also give Ms. Essence Owens a minute to explain what she does and what her position is and the staff that works with her. Good afternoon. I still want it to be morning.
Oh, don't take us back like that, Alderwoman. So like Alderwoman Tyus said, I'm Essence Owens and I'm the Neighborhood Development Executive. So I'm in charge of the Neighborhood Stabilization Division, which houses the Citizen Service Bureau and also the Neighborhood Improvement Specialist. So on the CSB side of things, I have 9 CSRs who are responsible for answering all quality of life issues as well as general information inquiries. They take about 140,000 calls a year. They answer 4,400 tweets, 3,000 emails, about 3,200 voicemails, and also about 1,500 online chats. Also, we go out into the neighborhood, as Ed Young mentioned earlier, perform weekly blitzes in conjunction with all city services. So tow, the street division team, the cleanup team, the board of crew, even fire and police are out there. And so far, we've serviced over 700 homes, just a little bit over 700. And then on the other side of things, I have the neighborhood improvement specialists, which I have 22 of those, and they're segmented by ward.
And how many do you have? 22, and how many wards are there?
28.
I'm just trying to understand how you only have 22 when there are 28 wards, but we're gonna have that conversation later.
Yes, we are. Yes, ma'am. So they are also responsible for addressing quality of life issues by working very closely with their alder people. And also they are responsible in assisting with abating public behavioral nuisances along with the police department. Additionally, they follow up on all service requests that are sent to their ward, whether it's through them or through the Citizen Service Bureau. So the Citizen Service Bureau submits about 75,000 a year, and the Neighborhood Improvement Specialist submits about 25,000 a year. So combined, the team submits about 100,000 service requests for city services to address. And that is pretty much it for my division. I'm wearing 2 hats. So I'm the Neighborhood Development Executive and the CSD Manager.
I want to say all these numbers you've given to us, I want them in a written form so we can share them not only with the committee members, but also, and not just you, the guys also, then we can share them with the rest of the members of the Board of Aldermen. So I was trying to take notes, but I gave up on that. And then I said, hey, they already have that written down, so they can just send them over to us, okay? I'd appreciate it if you send it to the committee. If you have all the Board of Aldermen, you can do that. If you don't, you can just send them to the committee members, and then I as the chair will make sure every member of the board has them.
Okay.
And I need that from the guys too. Okay, so we took really good notes. I know many of the senior aldermen, we have one of the former chairs of streets on this committee, so he may not have many questions, but I would like everybody to unmute themselves, our guests, and then they will tell you who they want to ask the question of. And I'm gonna start with Alderman Boyd. If you have any questions of any of our guests, you need to unmute Mr. Flakes. Thank you. Alderman Boyd. I think he stepped away. Alderman Vaccaro.
I just wanted to, what you were saying at the beginning, you know, we need to do an ordinance. If someone's acting out of, in other words, acting as a commissioner, acting above the rank, whatever they should be paid that amount during the time they're acting. You know, I really believe that. But I guess, hey, Randy, is Todd now the director now?
Todd is the refuse commissioner. Todd is a refuse commissioner.
Todd's the commissioner of refuge?
Right.
And he's off today, I guess.
No, he's not off. There's a reason why he's not before my committee. You all know it, and he's not ever coming before my committee, so let's move on.
Okay, I guess I don't know it. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I sent it out in writing, so I'm trying not to do that.
You can text me later.
We'll have a conversation. Todd knows why.
Okay. Anyway, no, I don't have any real question of the group. When I talked to Kent earlier, not too many people were doing paving. I guess everybody's kind of waiting. Does this mean my alley's going to get done soon?
Yeah, currently there's not a whole lot of paving going on with the, was it ARPA money? There's been some rumors, so we're kind of waiting to hear what comes out of that. So all the paving we have from last year, we're finishing up now. At the rate we're going, everything should be done here other than paving of a very large chunk of Hampton. Should be done in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And that's going from where to where on Hampton?
That's water gravel.
Okay, good, good. Okay, and I think that was pretty much, trying to think. And Randy, the bus stops. I mean, we talked about that during the meeting. The refuge is paid to pick up the bus stops.
Yeah,
And
I heard about that.
and you know, I have no real complaints about you. In fact, I think you're like the best. But I do know that the bus stops, especially the one in front of Walgreens, it's pretty dicey a lot. In fact, to the point, I think
Some of them, they add cans and don't even tell us. You know, there's a few in your ward where they put cans there, tethered them to like a light pole. And, you know, they never informed us those cans were even there. So I don't know what's going on with that.
are there cans that you guys officially have, Randy, that you could put out at a couple of these places? Do you guys have
Really,
something?
I'm really strapped with adding more stops because I only got, you know, so many crews to run those. You know, we got over 1,500 litter barrels, I think we service weekly.
I mean,
I
so
really
right
can't
there,
take on anymore unless I get another crew. It's tough.
well, I don't know if it's more, isn't it? I mean, it's the one that's right there on Chippewa and you know, the ones right there at Chippewa and
Hampton?
yeah, Hampton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if there's a black litter barrel there, a Metro can, then we're servicing it. If there's not one there, we don't service it.
Okay, it really looks sloppy there. I mean,
But
that's what I get a lot of complaints about.
Hampton, Chippewa.
You know, it's really in my ward and in the 16th ward, it's that whole corner. But, you know, it just gets a lot of, I get a lot of calls on it. And they put out, I've been in the Walgreens, I asked Walgreens, can't you empty it? But we can talk offline on that, but I really like to make sure that intersection, since it's probably, I mean, for our neighborhood, it's a very busy intersection and it just looks bad. And you also have a lot of people that are blind that have to walk through a ton of trash, you know, so.
I'll talk to you about that, Joe.
Yeah, we'll just talk offline. I appreciate it. I'm gonna mute myself so everybody else.
I want to do a little follow-up, Randy. So are you saying that you service the trash cans at the bus stops? Because when I talked to Metro, they said they had a program before they would bring on any more that they would have to get somebody to adopt the trash cans and then they would have to empty them. So is there two different programs going on?
Yeah, I believe this started when Mike Halsey was the liaison for you guys, and he went out and he identified like all these different stops that we were going to service. It didn't include every Metro bus stop. There was just so many. I think we get like $240,000 a year from them to service these cans, but it did not include every bus stop.
But they, and this might be.
Excuse me, Alderman, I got the floor now. You said you were gonna mute yourself. I'll let you come back if you want to do a follow-up. So, so do you know, Mr. Brightenfeld, where the bus stops that the MetroLink people might have, where if somebody has adopted it, do they give you any information about where they're located at all?
I just have my bus stops that I know that we collect. Yep. I'm not really sure what happens at the other ones.
Okay, but you're telling us that if you would really have to add more, you would need more crew to pick those up. Is that right?
I'm pretty stretched thin, yep.
I think all departments are pretty stressed because I think we had 20 years of mayors who believed in privatization, and how you get to privatization is you get rid of employees and you go a different direction. Okay, all right. Alderman Vaccaro, you had a follow-up?
Well, just that, I mean, if I would like to get the list, Randy, if you could send the list of where all these are at. And I would also say that if we need to add more money. This is the time because, but maybe a little late, but it comes out of the metro tax money. And, but I just think, I mean, that's really the only intersection in my neighborhood I'm having the issues. I don't have a whole lot of bus stops, but that one in particular. But I'd be interested to see where all these bus stops are at and how they line out on which routes.
I can get that for you. I'll
Okay,
get that for you.
And for the whole committee, not just
Right.
one. Thank you. Any further follow-ups, Alderman? Alderman Boyd, we're coming back to you. We had tried to get you, you stepped away. Can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I thought I might have missed something. So I just wanted to go around robin real quick. And I was previous chair of streets. And
Yeah,
just
I
want
already
to
announced that twice.
and want to give some people some heads up about some of the personalities. So I'll start with Kent Flake. Chances are when you call him, he is not going to answer the phone, but it's not because he don't like you. It's because hundreds of people are calling him. So I'm going to take up for him right now. He is very hard to get a hold of, but when he do call you, it's like your birthday. And then you have Ed Young at the tow lot, who's always, good to work with. Even before Ed, there was a guy there forever, Claude. He was always good to work with. So I enjoyed working with Ed. I enjoyed working with Kent. And then Randy, I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why he's not actually the refuse commissioner, because he's actually been the refuse commissioner since I've been Alderman. I've been Alderman 18 years, and I think he was there, Chairwoman, when you left, and he's there since you come back.
It's my 30th year. He wasn't quite 30, but pretty close.
And so if anybody don't like Randy Brightonfield, I'm just going to tell you right now, they'll hate him, because Randy gives exceptional service. He really does go above and beyond. And Jamie Wilson is the director, so he has the easiest job. So there you go on that. Now, since I've said all that, I want to go back to Metro, because like you, Alderwoman, Chairwoman, I was at the Ways and Means, and I heard the presentation about the bus stops and how this stuff works. So now I'm confused too, because there was $250,000 that was allocated, and it was like, it should take care of all the bus stops. And I'm sure there are trash cans that are not there anymore when they came up with that agreement, probably 10 years or so. But I think Jennifer Florida was the person that did the amendment on that to make that happen. So I'm really looking forward to getting that data on how many bus stops that refuse actually pick up a Metro. I'm a business owner. I have a bus stop near my business. People like to sit in my window. I don't understand why. It's real dangerous to me. And I asked them to go to, now we have a bus shelter. So they go sit in the bus shelter, and I'm asking for a trash can. So I'm told that there's the Adopt a Stop program. So I said, I will participate. So that is true. Metro is asking people if you want a trash can to do the Adopt a Stop program. I also told them I would do it across the street from me, because all the trash blows over on my property for some reason. And I contacted the owner across the street, said, would he be willing to adopt it? He says, yes, but if you don't, I'm going to adopt it, because it's just too much trash flowing up and down MLK. So I would really like to know for sure, how many trash cans are they picking up a Metro? And if Metro needs to up the amount of money, if it needs to go from $250,000 to $400,000, so be it. I know the city of St. Louis gives 100% of our sales tax revenue to Metro, and St. Louis County only gives 50%. So maybe St. Louis County can kick in more. I mean, that's on them. But I just think that, the city of St. Louis is used as a dumping ground, not only at the bus stops, even because we have way more than St. Louis County anyway, but also throughout our alleys and streets. My last thing is, Randy, I'm going to just take a plug for myself. 5947 Wells, somebody decided to gift the city about 35 tires. They stacked them very neatly. I'll take a picture and send it to you. But 5947 Wells Avenue, there's about 30 tires that people would put right in the curb line.
I
So
put
now
that
I'm
in
done.
yesterday, Alderman.
Huh?
I put that service request in yesterday.
Okay, awesome.
They had a
So-
cleanup on Saturday, and that's why they were stacked so neatly.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for letting me know. Nobody
Yeah.
told me. But that's okay. I appreciate it. I love cleanups because we had a dumpster put out there as well over the weekend because we knew about the cleanup. So awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, Randy, they're still there.
Okay, well, thank you again, Alderman.
Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you, the street department. The street department, again, is one of my most favorite departments. I'm done.
Okay, I want to do a follow-up. So just what we're talking about, you put in a service request for the tires, Ms. Owens, that's right?
Yes.
How does that work? So you submit them, you put them in the computer. This is where I want to get to. How does that work?
Okay, let me share my screen with you all. So I created a little infographic to kind of illustrate, and I can send this over to everyone as well. So the first thing is that a citizen will call into the CSB or will contact their neighborhood improvement specialist. For illustration purposes, I use debris on a vacant lot, which is something that we get quite often this time of year. So after that, the rep will ask the location of the debris. If it's already in the system, they will go in and they will add that caller to that request that's already existing. They will provide them that service request number that's already in the system and provide them the department response date. If it is not already in the system.
Can I stop you? What is the department's response date?
So the department response date is the date in which we expect for a department to be able to go out, investigate and say, yes, there is a problem here and we will continue with our work.
And you give that to the citizen when they call?
Yes.
Okay.
So if there's not one in the system, what will happen is a new service request will be created. The department response date will be given at that time and the service request number for follow-up if they want to. Now, at that point, it's in the city services hands. So whichever operating department, for illustration purposes, we did debris. So it'll be the street division. So Willie Young will receive the service request and he will see, okay, well now I need to go out and do an inspection. So right now, debris vacant lot and debris vacant building are set at a 14-day turnaround. And on average, right now, they are closing out service requests within 17 days. So they're right on target with it. But after it's under the city's purview, they send an inspector out to see if the work needs to be completed. And if so, then they go ahead and do the work. And then after that, if there is work to be done, they'll do the work and then they'll come back and put the notes on the service request and close it out. And then that's when most times citizens call back and say, what's going on with this service request? But we have to give the operating departments time to actually do the investigation and do the work.
And who set the 14-day, did you say 14 days debris removal? Who sets that time frame?
So that time frame was set when me and Willie sat down and spoke. So it's based off of their business flow, what they think they can get done within that time frame. So most service requests in CSB are set at 14 or 21 days.
So
Now,
the department sets the time frame.
Right, the department does, yeah. And it's based on their business flow, what they can handle, how many resources they have at their disposal. But there are other service requests that are obviously done a lot faster. Like if we have a street light that's out or a whole block lights out, those are usually turned around within 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours. And then we have some that are longer, like the sidewalk program, which is 18 to 24 month turnaround.
Okay, so those are the steps that you do. Okay, so I want to thank you. And we want this right here. We want you to send us that. Anything that you have in writing, we're going to ask for. Then we can decide what we don't need to use. So I would love to see you send that to the committee members.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So then you said you take it to Will, but we're going to use Randy. Did he leave?
I'm here.
Okay, Randy, if you got something from Essence about so if you get something from Essence saying there's some trash that needs to be picked up or whatever. So how do you handle, how is that handled from your end? So I'm trying to follow the entire flow of how, when a citizen makes a complaint, when they get the complaint number, then they get the time that it's supposed to be picked up. What happens at your end?
Yep, I work with Will Young pretty closely. I mean,
He's another favorite person. You two are my favorite people. He does a great job.
Yeah, I have my foreman go out there and inspect it, and you know, if it's something big items that my guys can handle, we'll get it, but a lot of times it's loose trash or big piles of trash, so you know, since Will's got all the front loaders out there, we refer a lot of that stuff to him. So basically anything that is a lot of handwork, that goes to Will. Big items that are easy to pick up, we can throw in the back of our Packer trucks and crush up, that's what we do.
Okay, so when your foreman goes out to inspect, and how long does that usually take once you've received the complaint for the foreman to go out and and inspect?
I mean, if I get it from one of the alder persons, I usually have that done right away.
I know, but we're not talking about us special 28 extra mayors over here. We're talking about the average person.
I'm not sure what the response time is for assessments on something like that.
So for containers being missed, like refuse containers in the
No,
alley.
let's just say we put tires. And so
Yeah.
that goes, right.
So
So,
tires would be either debris on a vacant, it depends on where. it
no,
is.
I
If
don't
it's
need
on a
answers.
lot-
I'm trying to figure out what Randy does. So you send your inspector, he goes out there, he says, okay, yes, there are these tires that need to be picked up or whatever, this bulk item, it could be whatever. So you then have your foreman refer it to either Will or someone else. Is that what happens?
That's correct. I mean, usually if it's, I mean, I'm so shorthanded with bulk too. I try to just, you know,
I know.
hold out till that collection week, unless it's something that's blocking the alley or things like that. Then we jump on those right away. But I
And,
just hate to move my crews all over the place. I like to stick
'Cause-
within my collection
Okay.
areas.
So, and that's my question to you. Does the foreman go out that day that you get it? Is it usually a 2 or 3 day lag? Is there any average of once you get a complaint when you send a foreman out to inspect? And this is, I'm trying to understand because I'm going to be your advocate to say we actually do need a lot more people, not only in forestry, but in refuse. Those are places where we really get irritated people because, you know, that causes other trash to be dumped. So it's not critical. I'm not criticizing. I'm just trying to understand. So,
I mean, if it's that collection week, we get out, I get them out there right away. But if if we're in second week and I get a complaint for fourth week, I mean, unless it's, like I say, unless it's something that has to be addressed right away, I try to leave it for that week.
Okay. Okay, so then once they give it over to Will, or who else would they give it besides Will?
It's just Will.
Okay,
He's in charge of that entire program.
well, he cleans up. I mean, every time he's ever cleaned an alley for me, the people come out and take pictures and send them to me and show he does a good job. He is the person that believes that you get every scrap up. So I'm really appreciative of him.
He never drops the ball. At least for me, he doesn't.
Right. Okay, so then the next person is Alderwoman Boyd.
I don't have anything. I mean, I'm pretty much on tune with everybody else. I applaud the street department. Jamie and I have a little joke that we have between ourselves. So we got confused on some things. So Alderwoman Tyus kind of helped me through that. And then as everybody else said, Randy is superb. And Kent is not a phone person. So Alderman Boyd was correct. But Kent's heart is there. So we'll give you a pass, Kent. We okay with that. I think Randy, his heart is he's very compassionate. And I guess I'm just slow. I don't know why. I'm just thinking he took care of my ward. And they were like, oh, woman, he do the whole city. I was like, oh, God. So, I mean, you couldn't ask for anybody more committed. So I think he is superb. And thank all of you all. I appreciate you. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alderwoman.
Okay, Alderwoman Martin. Have any questions of any of the guests?
Well, one comment. Everyone's very helpful to me. Randy, you're always very responsive and helpful, especially when I forget things like getting dumpsters at 4 p.m. So I appreciate that. My only issue, and Jamie knows this, is the alley vacation process. It seems all over the place, and it does prevent deals from being closed from time to time. I finally did get a board bill for my latest request, but that is one thing that I think could use some improvement. But otherwise, thank you all very much for your work, and thanks for coming here today.
Okay. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all letting me talk. I didn't know it was gonna be my turn. So one thing I think a lot of us are a little bit concerned about, and again, thank you all for being here, is we all rely so heavily on Zach Fortune to work with us whenever there's an issue on streets. And I know he's moving to a different role. And while I couldn't be happier for him to do whatever he wants to do professionally, I know our contact for different issues has become Jamie and Kent, which is great, except that you all are doing a million other things. So what's your timeline for finding someone to actually replace Zach?
We do have a request for that position. I don't know the time frame. That was just this week sent in.
I think it went on the board last Wednesday or Thursday. The rec is in, so it's out and posted. So typically, I think it's 3 or 4 weeks it's posted, assuming there's applicants. The question will be whether there are actually any applicants or not.
Okay. So we should share that far and wide.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Along with every job in the city.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that's not something that, it sounds like there's movement within the departments from, people taking different commissioner jobs or what have you. Is there anybody within the streets department already who you know might be interested in applying for that role, who might already have some familiarity or no?
I'll keep that answer short, but yes, there are 1 or 2 people interested.
Okay, that's good. That's good news. So regarding illegal dumping, do you have any concept of how many people who are getting caught doing the illegal dumping are city residents, or are these people all coming in from elsewhere?
Good question, and I don't
So
know.
I can answer that somewhat. What they found last year with Sergeant Calabro had it, they were a lot of people from outside of the city limits.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine is the case. But I don't, I know that city residents have a certain number of trips we can take to, kind of dump things. And
Once a month.
sometimes I wonder if people just really don't know that that's an option for them, especially when someone doing work at their home fills an entire dumpster, for example, whether or not they're even aware that there's an option for some other process. So let's see. Regarding the 22 NIS positions, so Ms. Owens, I guess this is a question for you. I'm one of the alder people who shares an NIS, and while my NIS works very, very hard, it's still 2 wards with 1 person. I guess the question I have, the last time I looked at the city website, it didn't look like that position was being hired for, but that was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, so it could have changed. And then the concern then with ward reduction coming up in 2 years, is this something that you're thinking about, and how many NIS we will need, or how that will all transition? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So years ago, they cut the NISs down, and I was always told that they could never refill it. So that's why the numbers have been the way they have over the years when it comes to the NISs. But we are definitely keeping in mind what will happen the next couple years with the reduction of the board and stuff like that. So we do have a contingency plan when that comes to fruition.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then the question I had, I believe, Kent, when you were talking about the 50-50 program, you said 50% city, 50% alderman. You meant 50% resident pays for it, 50% alderman, unless it's a city tree, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't completely incorrectly fund sidewalks during my budget presentation. Regarding the tow lot, I think we've all seen the news, and I know Chairwoman Tyus has a lot of desire to look into the claims and everything that's coming out in the news. But what improvements have been made with these findings that cars that have been towed, have sort of disappeared? I'd really be interested in hearing what immediate, short-term, long-term plans are in effect there.
Well, most of those are allegations have been found, whether through comptroller's audits. I think we've been audited 4 times in 3 years by a comptroller's internal audit. We've had
We need your camera turned a little bit more on. We can't see your face. Thank you.
So we've had, I believe, 4 internal audits over the last 3 years. We've had PD did a fairly major investigation that went over about 4 months. We're currently, for about the last year and a half, been being audited by the state. And most of the claims, there's been a few that have actually came to fruition, and those were taken care of immediately. What, 3 or 4 years ago, we added a ton of cameras to City Tow, because prior to that, they had 2 cameras that pointed at the front gates, and that was it. But we added, I think we're 22 cameras up there currently. And yesterday, 2 people were arrested up there because they felt like they needed to break in and steal stuff at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Actually, it was Sunday. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we had people breaking in. But as far as all the alleged illegal activity, most of the claims are very far in the past. And the newer claims, I believe, are addressed very well in the internal audit reports, and it will be addressed very well, I would assume, in the state audit report once it's actually finished.
Okay. In terms of timeline for project completion, I'm new to this, and we just did our budget hearings or not hearings, but our decision-making process that was due June 15th for ward capital. Once money is allocated for, say, repaving of an entire street, what would you imagine is a timeline between that allocation and the project being finished in sort of a typical year process?
If we're talking about paving in particular, we usually get 80 to 90% of our list that was just created here with your meetings will be completed this year.
In 2021 or before June of next year?
It'll be completed before November 1st of this year.
Wow, that's great.
So tell her about 50-50 sidewalk though, kid. He's telling you the good things.
She asked about paving. I kind of like it. So 50-50 sidewalk is a completely different animal. So you kind of committed that money, a week or 2 weeks ago. That money is not available until probably the 2nd week of July. Then once that money actually hits our accounts, then we put out a bid through the Board of Public Service, sometimes multiple bids, depending on what the dollar amounts are. Those bids go out, and more than likely, they won't be approved until after the 1st of the year. And of course, we're probably not pouring sidewalks in January. And a contractor at the earliest, after you put the money in July or April or May, that contractor will not start working on that work until probably April or May of the following year.
That's the good parts. That's the good story. let me tell you about 2, 3, and 4 years behind. So I just want to intercede a little bit. So do we have more than one contractor pouring sidewalk? Because when I was a new person like this people, and I was on streets and Mary Ross was the chair, we passed a law that you had to have more than one you could have 2 contractors working. And I heard while I was gone that they moved it up to 3. How many different contractors do we have doing 50-50 sidewalk? Because we were making the same complaints back in 1990s.
Yep, currently we have 3 on board. We have seen within the last 5 years, actually 4 working at one time. At the end of the day, it's competitively bid. Typically, once somebody wins one of the contracts, because we're talking between $500,000 and $750,000 typically on one of these contracts, and that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for one contractor just to have one. Usually, once they get the first one, they don't. If they bid the second one, they're bidding really high because they really don't want it. So typically it works out where it's split up pretty decently. We've got Stick of Concrete. It's been the one that's probably been pouring it from back in the time you're talking about.
Exactly. And then they went to 2. When we said they have to do 2, we got 2 different contractors, and then they bid for both contracts. Right.
Yep. That's absolutely what happened. And whenever I took over the 50-50 sidewalk program, probably 2006, I think, something like that.
When Wally Hose left?
After Wally Hose left, yes. And that's, I know people that do concrete. I was trying to get everybody and their brother to come in and start bidding these jobs. And I think that's one of the first times we had 4 contractors, was right around that time period. And if you can get 4 decent contractors to work at the same time, it's great. If you can get 2 good contractors and 2 really bad contractors, it's not so great. And what ends up happening, and we've had this happen several times, is 2 contractors came in, they couldn't make it. So then at some point you got to turn around and rebid that whole thing over again, or possibly get the second bidder. But that's just time that they're not doing any work. And we've had, over the last 5 years, we've had that, I think, 3 times. It's becoming more normal to have guys come in, bid it, figure out they can't make any money off of it.
So have we caught up with the 50-50 sidewalk? I know I was getting sidewalk poured in January and February this year. Are we about caught up? And this was from 18, 19, 20. Are we about to be caught up, or where are we on that schedule?
We are not about caught up. I would guess the next 1.5 to 2 years, assuming we don't have another pandemic or anything crazy, I think we'll be back about 18 months to 2 years from now. We should be back and close to being in business. So
when you tell the Alderwoman next year, you really mean not next year, but the year after that. Yeah. I just want her to know, don't trick her, okay? Because she has to go out and talk to her constituents, and they'll be mad at her, and she'll say, well, that's what they told me. So we want the truth on this committee. Isn't that right, Alderwoman?
Yes. I had one more question about sidewalks, and that is one of the things when I was, got the list from you all that these are the sidewalks that are requesting funding for the 2021-22 fiscal year. I put out on social media, like, if you think you should be on this list and you're not, let me know. And several people sent me emails saying that they requested sidewalk repairs, and some of them thankfully were on the previous year's request that I believe 13th Ward is one of the next few wards that should be getting sidewalks worked on, if I'm correct on that. So some of them will have work beginning soon. But some people who requested in 18, 19, 20 weren't on either list. And I sent those names in and those addresses in. But when a request for the 50-50 program does come in through CSB, how would someone not end up on the list if they had applied for the 50-50 program? Or I guess conversely, how does someone end up on the list?
Typically, if they apply through CSB, they don't get lost. What I figured out a lot is if they apply at a neighborhood meeting, sometimes those lists never get turned in. Not necessarily your ward, but other wards. I have seen that a lot where, you know, they'll pass around a sheet. Even after the meeting, if I'm there, I'm just trying to get the sheet, I'll enter it all in myself. And then you figure out a couple weeks later that it never did get entered. But if it goes through CSB, there's always a record. So if they're not notified of the 50/50 program, I mean, that's the greatest thing about Citizen Service Bureau and service request is you always have that method to track. I mean, I just had a guy, 2 weeks ago, called in, said, I requested this in 2016. And we had, to this day, we had not poured a sidewalk. He had just fallen through the cracks. I look it up, and for some reason, he had never been sent a participation letter. And now that's resolved. But that's the good thing about City Works or Citizens or CSB or service request in general is you always have that way to track. If you come back in 2 years saying what happened, well, it's there. And why did it get overlooked is the next question I start looking into is how did this get passed over for 5 years? And that's when people ask explaining to do to me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I did have a few people who, you know, I would take their address, look it up in CSB, the request would be there, but they wouldn't be on the list. And they would have said that their sidewalk hasn't been repaired. So it's possible they missed a letter and didn't reply to the letter or didn't receive the letter. So what I then, and I did communicate with TJ and with Anthony about these households, and let him know anytime that somebody wasn't on CSB and should have through the time limitations or the time when people should have been added to the list, I would always say, please add them, please add them. And so, you know, my concern, of course, is that there's people who didn't see, you know, are on social media, didn't see my posts asking for people to reach out to me so I could check for them. You know, and what's the process? I mean, is there any kind of washing out or some of CSB to figure out, like, has anybody been on this list that hasn't ever gotten back to us or, you know, have submitted, you know, what is the process there to make sure that people aren't being overlooked?
Typically, when we send a letter out, we just expect it to be returned, or not expect it to be returned, expect it to actually get to somebody's house. I guess we don't really keep track of no responses because it doesn't really affect us so much. We're not going to go there if there's a no response. And I just assume, because the problem with, or I'm not going to say the problem, but the way the 50/50 program works, if my neighbor has a crack in her sidewalk, I can call CSB on them. And I can go do that every day when I'm walking my dog. And at the end of the day, I look at it as the homeowner that actually lives there and say it's just a hairline crack. You're not going to trip and fall over it. So I'm not going to spend the money on fixing it at this point. So you have random people that can be turning these in a service request. And then you have homeowners that know what their sidewalk looks like. Maybe they don't want to participate in general. Maybe it's very minor, or maybe it's really messed up and it needs repair. But
it's too expensive.
So once the letters go out, we either get them back or we don't. And most of them, though, are typically going to have tree damage at them. So they should see something from us at some point. There's very few residents in the city that doesn't have tree damage at almost every address.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested in that process because, you know, when if I, for example, go to CSB, see a request from 2018, 2019, and the resident saying it's never been done, it doesn't then say, okay, this is the date that the letter was sent to you, and they're saying there was no response. Like, that's not listed on CSB. So I wouldn't know, and they wouldn't know whether or not they missed a letter. So when they go back and check CSB, and they're saying, because some of them will send me their service request number, they'll say, I put this in 2018, here's the number. Like, they know the system. And so you would think that they're responding to the letter if they do get one. So I guess that communication piece isn't, you know, if someone doesn't receive the letter, there's no way of them checking online to see if they missed it or anything like that. I'm sure that would be a huge undertaking to go back and mark every CSB request, letter sent, no response, no response. I mean,
the letters are actually generated by CityWorks. So, or CSB, however you want to look at it. So the letters are actually generated there. So if a letter was sent or a letter wasn't sent, it's either going to be checked or not checked. So that's all tracked on any time a letter is sent. So TJ should be able to provide that for you if you had a half dozen or dozen or whatever it would happen to be, addresses that said we've never received anything. He should be very easily be able to tell you that, you know, we haven't got to it yet, or a letter was sent, and he'll have a date and everything for that.
okay, but it doesn't communicate with CSB directly to say in that little response section of the website to say letter was sent, because often when I look at CSB, it gives me dates of different things happened and what was the response and all that. So it'd be interesting to add whether the letter was sent. But I know that I can also look at CityWorks myself as well, but then the resident, can't. And whether,
Right.
Yeah,
Alderwoman, that's something that I've been asking for some years, is a true customer relationship management tool, where the citizens can log into the system and kind of see their own service requests for themselves. But that is a very costly item to have, and so I've been kind of shut down. But it won't stop me from asking for it year after year. But that is something that definitely is needed, because when you guys look online, you do have a very limited view. All of the stuff, like Kent said, is tracked inside of CityWorks, but your view as a citizen, you won't see all of that. And so I want to get a CRM where everybody can log into it themselves and see everything from A to Z, because the only thing you guys see is the service request side of it. So once the service request has been completed in a way, a work order can be initiated on the operating department side. And that's where you see the different tasks, like the letter was sent this day, reinspection 10 days later. Those things are tracked inside of CityWorks, but they're housed inside of the operating department side. And that's the part that's not visible to the residents. And that's the part that's most frustrating, because it looks like it went into a black hole and no one knows what happened.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you letting me know that. I did get an email from CityWorks right when I first became an alderperson with login information, and I'd love to use that. My final question is, do you all ever do trainings for alder people or people who are interested in learning this process so that we can look at it? I'm sure it would save you all a lot of time if I just knew how to look it up, and you wouldn't have to.
So it's usually been upon request only, because I kind of put it out there, and only a few people took me up on that offer when I first put it out there. But if you guys want to come down, Brandon Bosley has come down and kind of seen how it works. Alderman Boyd has come down and seen how it works. So I'm very interested in showing anyone and everyone how it works, so that everybody understands the process and they're not in the dark
I'm
about
reaching out about that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this time to ask you all questions. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I yield my time.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question. You said that you have been trying to get it so the citizens could log on to CSB and see, follow the process. And you said it was costly. Did anybody ever tell you what costly meant to them? Because some people think costly is $100,000 and other people think costly is $50,000. Did you have any budget? Anybody submitted a budget?
So I reached out to Salesforce, and I wanted to get the enterprise account so that all city operating departments could be on it. It was $500,000.
$500,000. And that was for all?
That was for all city agencies.
Okay. And I want to follow up what Alderwoman said about, is there a way that we could have somebody less expensively, especially like for 50-50 sidewalk, just put that information in saying, okay, we sent these letters out and this is the response? Would that be very expensive to have somebody do that, Kent or Essence?
It wouldn't. The system is not able to do it currently as it's set.
Okay.
Because we have asked that. We've asked that plenty of times before, but the system is not able to show that on our city's website. So we would have to actually purchase a separate system for that, because right now it's kind of like a hodgepodge of what ITSA is putting together for us. But
so we're talking about $500,000 for all city departments. We're talking about 28 wards. So it sounds a lot, but when you're talking about the whole city, it's not nearly as expensive as that. Seems like something we would have pushed a long time ago, just for the customer service end of it. And also how I get really, people are just irritated, trying to figure out, they'll see something, let's just say it says addressed. What does addressed mean? I'm just using that. They don't know what had happened to it. And so they're irritated beyond. So then that makes me have to spend my time finding out what we could have just spent the money on, so that they themselves. Now that will not cure, because there are a lot of people I service that are not necessarily computer savvy, and seniors especially a lot of times, and that they're used to calling their alderperson or their committee person. But for all the people that are computer savvy, we would just free up all kind of time if we could find that. That might be one of the things that all of us might be able to agree that you need to, and it's a program. Is that what it is? That would,
So it's a software that they would implement citywide, and it would already integrate with CityWorks. So it would show everything. We wouldn't have to buy another tool for that. So CityWorks would be integrated into it, and every step along the way, a citizen would get a flag to say, we're at step one, kind of like the pizza tracker for Domino's. So it'll tell you every step of the way where it is. Yep.
Okay, that's great.
Yep.
And would that be helpful for the street department, Mr. Flake?
Oh, absolutely, especially with programs like 50/50 or sewer lateral. You know, it's especially any of those programs, it would be magnificent for the ones that take more than 10 or 14 days to complete.
Yep, absolutely. Because one of the ones Alderwoman Tyus is building division. So we may have one that says already under notice. That's one that really irritates people.
Yes.
So they wonder, well, what does that mean? That means that the building division has already sent the letter, and so the citizen knows that they have a violation. But it can go to court, and that can take a long time. They can appeal, they can do all kinds of things that pushes that process way beyond, like Kent said, the 14 days or 21 days. So having a CRM would definitely help expose all of that, so that people have full visibility as to what's going on.
Okay, all right. Okay, Alderwoman from the 17th. Questions? Gotta unmute. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And banana peel.
I know, but I don't want to say it wrong. So I said, I know I'll get 17th right.
That's
I know. If I
peel.
can't get it right, I'll get the number right, okay?
All right. Really good. Yeah, I have a few questions. Thank you for being here. This is wonderful information. I would love to say, SN CSB is incredible. I have been using them. I have been calling you for 10 years or however long it's been, I don't know, but you come out within a week. I love how you give us a number, a confirmation number, and that is an opportunity for us to follow up. And I think it was Kent who said, it's better that people call CSB when they want something versus, writing everything on a piece of paper at a neighborhood meeting, because I do the same thing. For instance, my neighbor behind me last week was telling me about the high grass next door. And he said, Alderwoman, can you do this? And I said, oh, call CSB so you can get a confirmation number. And if in like 2 weeks, nothing happens, then I will proceed and call. And so I, A, want to empower the individual, and B, I know that then it's tracked. And, you could track me too as accountability, right? When I tell a resident, call CSB, and then you could follow up with me if nothing happens. So you are wonderful, and your NSI also are. My NSI is wonderful, and has helped me out a lot as a first-time alder and 2 months in the job, etc. About the, all the information he knows about the city and where to go. So you're welcome. And then I had a couple questions. Kent, thank you. I know we've spoken and everything else with, let's see, the question I had, I'm looking at, I should have written it down. Oh, the sewer lateral program. I was wondering if the sewer lateral or where the crack is in the pipe, like I have clay pipes, like if the crack is in a clay pipe on the person's property, you can't participate in the sewer lateral, can you? When it's on your property versus it's in the I don't know what you call it, the alley, I don't know what you call that part, where it's the cities.
Yeah, the only thing that qualifies for the city lateral program is whether it's got to be in our right of way.
Right away, okay.
Which would be at, let me throw in one odd thing. So you got the alley, you get the street, tree lawn, and public walk area. The one thing that does happen occasionally, we probably do 10 jobs like this a year, is if every once in a while you'll have an MSD sewer main that runs right next to your house through a walkway or something weird, and those also qualify.
Okay, thanks.
Kind of their easement or their right under it's their easement for their MSD main, but those are what qualify.
Thanks for that clarification. Is Ed around still?
He is.
Okay. The question I had is, you said the auctions are 9:30, what, 9:30 every once a month? What day?
Oh, we do it every Thursday.
Wow, you have that many, what, vehicles or something like that?
Say that again?
You have so many vehicles, you have to do it every week,
Yes.
auctions. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. So, another question I had, because I know people's transportation is not always vehicles. What about bicycles that are stolen? Are they auctioned off too? Or is that the police department?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Bicycles. There's
Bicycle?
Yeah, they're always abandoned bicycles. So no, I'm serious.
I think you might want to talk to Ken about that.
Okay, all right, and there's people who don't have cars and, they would probably love to get a bicycle. Kent, what?
We don't. I have had to go get a couple scooters, but no bicycles.
Okay, thank you. So every Thursday at 9:30, and where's that at? Where do people go?
7410 Hall Street.
Okay. All right. That is it for questions. I look forward to getting all those numbers that you told us about, like 50,000 pounds here. That'll be really good to give to constituents, and really the amount of work that you guys do and people don't know. So again, thank you for being here. Madam Chair, thank you for setting this up.
Thank you. I want to just follow up, Mr. Young. So the city towing department and the police towing department, are they one and the same? Do they work together? Or are they separate entities?
No, we took over the police department towing.
So you do all towing now? Yeah,
we do all the towing for the police department.
Okay, and so you and I kind of had this conversation. Is it, is my memory correct? Is that you're starting to run out of space and you maybe needing to look for some more space for the cars? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We typically, I think our lot holds around, what is it, about 9 to 1,000. We have to start putting cars sideways on the lot and everything, and
okay.
It gets tight in there.
I'm not going to get too detailed because I am going to follow up because I've had so many complaints about the tow department. I will not have a viewpoint one way or the other. I don't believe investigations that you start with your end results, because that's not an investigation. That's not even an interrogation. That is found guilty without having any evidence. I am going to be doing a more detailed inquiry into the tow lots. And I will be calling you and other people before us, but I don't have any agenda. I just want to know what the facts are. I think a lot of times things that have happened in the past, people hold you responsible for it. So it could be somebody else, or it could be something that you don't know about, but we will be doing an investigation into what I've been hearing and reading. And we can't not do that since that's under our purview. And we will be looking at the whole thing of everything doesn't get towed. Some things you sell for scrap, is that correct?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, everything doesn't get just given back to the people. You sell some parts, some vehicles for scrap.
Yes, ma'am. Everything goes to auction and sold.
Okay,
Either-
but I'm saying everything that goes to auction is sold.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you put it up there, they buy it.
Majority of the time, unless the only things that they really don't buy is like these fiberglass boats or something that
Okay.
we have to scrap, you know,
Okay.
like that and put in a
But you
trash.
don't put everything that you get up for auction. Some things you just scrap before it goes to auction. Is that correct?
I mean, unless it's like the boats and stuff like that, yes, ma'am.
Okay, but all vehicles that come through your through the tow lot would then let's just say all cars would be put up for auction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. We have some people that are not on the committee, so I want to give those people a chance to see if they have any questions.
I do have some questions.
Oh, I'm
still
sorry. Okay,
I've
my
been here. I
vice
was just
chair,
letting
I'm
them-
in trouble. Okay.
I've been here.
I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't see you.
Okay.
So Alderman Bosley.
I was driving. I don't generally like to have my camera on while I'm driving. Just
And I
try-
tell you that all the time, pull over, okay?
So I appreciate it. I thank you all very much for being here. I've definitely spoken with you all on multiple occasions, with each of you. And I think you do a great job at what it is what you do. And you all are very responsive. I'm not sure what everybody's talking about there. Folks not answering their phone, but I get my calls answered. So one of the questions I do have is about all of the dumping. I know that's a continuous problem across the entire city. And I think that's something the entire north side definitely is plagued with due to us having an abundance of property that isn't owned by any one person, but is owned by the city. So it's unoccupied. One of the things that I would like to do when I was looking into is putting more cameras here in our alleys. And I know that with the trash bill that we passed about 3 years ago, it gave us a few extra dollars to buy cameras that are stationary, those or the hunting cameras that we put out there in the alleys. I'd like to get an idea of how much each one of those costs to be installed. Is there anyone that can answer that question?
Randy's right, and I'll talk for a second about it. Was it environmental? What is it, EAP?
EIU.
EIU. I mean, they're the ones that handle all that. The funds actually come out of the refuse account, but they wouldn't be the ones that actually know what it costs per camera. Most of those are in those really fancy housings, and that's the expensive part. I think the trail cam was only like $100 a piece, $120 a piece, something like that. But by the time you put it in a housing, it can actually be protected from the elements. And they also got the solar panels and stuff on them now, and the ability to download are they wireless now or USB-C? I'm not sure what they're doing, but either USB-C or download wirelessly over a quick connection. By the time you add all that in on top of a $120 camera, it gets kind of pricey. But they would actually know the answer per camera.
Okay. Do you all control, and I appreciate that, do you all control the employees that have to go out and retrieve the information whenever there's a call about a site that's been dumped on?
That's PD also.
That's PD also. So PD services those cameras after we get them installed.
Yeah, it's our traffic guys install them as far as putting them up on the pole. The traffic and lighting guys, because we got the boom trucks. After that, it's pretty much all PD until it needs moved again.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is kind of look into seeing what we can do to have some more stationary cameras. I know because they're inexpensive here, like you said, about $100. Every single alley is not being dumped into, but I think if we put enough of them out there and make an effort enough to cover enough across the city, there probably would be a big deterrence there. if we're able to capture a bunch of people kind of at one time. Because when we put the cameras in places, through my experience, we catch folks, then after we catch them and we move the camera somewhere else, folks either, you get a new set of people dumping, or they just know there's a camera there, so they go dump in a different location. So we're pretty much just chasing people.
Yep.
We got a little bit of funding coming down the pipeline. Maybe that could be something we could potentially look at too, if we get an idea what the fiscal impact would be, what it is per camera installed with the box. Because I was told it could be somewhere around $400,000 because of the amount of service that they may be required for each alley that gets dumped into, and the amount of manpower is needed to go out and retrieve that information. I don't personally think that it should be that expensive because, once again, the entire city isn't being dumped in or dumped on. It's those places where the opportunity exists, and we cover those areas very well. Maybe we don't have to use so much manpower cleaning up, and we can utilize it being more preventative. So I appreciate that. That was one of the big things that I am very, very interested in. I get those calls a lot. My residents are on my neck about this dumping. I mean, every day we got tires and a gang of other things that get dumped out there. So that's definitely on my priority list, is seeing what we can do to get some eyes in the sky.
Yeah, but I'll check with PD to see if I can get a cost on what it is for a camera in its entirety. And once I get that, I'll get that back to the committee.
Okay, I certainly appreciate that. Next thing, speed humps. I know that's something we all kind of had some conversation about earlier. Big thing. Hey, how's it going?
This guy,
All right, so since we put the speed humps around the parks here and around every school, the police officers here at Ward had from what they've expressed, a much easier time being able to get from point A to point B when trying to slow somebody down after them tagging them or flashing their lights to them. Of course, we know that we got a big speeding problem in the city. People are running from the police left and right. Some people hate the speed bumps, and that's okay. My residents, they love them. And the officers here that we work with have also showed some appreciation. Just wanted to ask a few questions just so I can have a clear understanding. The reason that we have to go to a speed study to get the speed humps, is that because, the ordinance, well, of course we have to get a speed study done, but the requirement that requires that to be done, is that through ordinance that requires us to take a speed study?
the ordinance enables the street department to have a traffic calming policy, which is formally held at the Board of PPS. That policy did start with studies being mandated. As we've learned, I mean, that was 2016. We probably had the traffic calming policy first come out. Obviously, the speed humps are pretty popular, very effective, relatively low cost compared to some of the larger scale improvements to do the same thing. So it became the most popular. We kind of streamlined our process for speed humps, acknowledging that while the speed studies were required, we also started exercising more engineering judgment on that in terms of being a little preventative in the way we look at it. Preventative maintenance being like putting them around parks, schools, churches, high pedestrian activity areas. And we're continuing to look at ways to improve that traffic calming policy relative to speed humps, and actually look forward to working with this committee and Madam Chairman for this committee to see what we can do with speed hump policy.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So as far as the policy goes, that is the speed calming is for streets that are 25 miles per hour and more, correct? And over?
Speed humps globally are designed for streets or speeds no more in excess of 30 miles an hour. So 30 miles an hour and down is what speed humps are designed for. So you won't see them on highways or large arterials where the speeds are heavier than that. That's when you have to look outside. So that traffic calming policy is a lot of different tools for calming traffic. Speed humps are one, and those are more for your neighborhood settings.
Okay. Yeah, so we're looking at possibly getting I want to get like Chairwoman Tyus here. We want to beef up the ward and get another 100 put down if we can. Yeah, they are everywhere there. So
look, I threw you,
so
so you better be nice to me.
you definitely threw them. I appreciate it. So yeah, we're trying to get like that. So we have reduced the speed limit down to 20 miles per hour in all our residential areas. So from my understanding, I think we kind of fly under the ordinance there, which requires a speed study. I'd like, if you can, look into that so we can, I would say, kind of move forward quickly in putting up some speed bumps here when we start paving some of these streets. I know, like, the summertime is going to get much more active here as people come out the house. People get more comfortable getting back into the swing of things. We're very active with a lot of shootings and a gang of other things that are traffic related. For those folks who common measures as we measure the effect of those who are, I say being it's possible that aren't bus routes.
You're breaking up a bit, but I got enough just where I can talk to you offline here about that in more detail. I don't know if someone was breaking up or yours was. I apologize.
Okay, sorry about that. It happens.
I'll call you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Essence, Ms. Owens, is she available? So I know we spoke at some time ago, and I for the her on record. Is there a space on within the system there in that program that we utilize for CS the different so we can have that saved in the computer, see things that happen or something done. This was not picked up. We hear that pretty often, and of course we know as soon as you pick something up, sometimes things get dumped right back down. Like in terms of working efficiently and being able to go back and have a track record of what we picked up, what was thrown down. Do you think that would be possible to do? Number one, do we have is there space there in the software for someone to take a photo and have that as evidence of them completing the job?
Yes. So a couple years ago, when the debris program moved over to the street division, they were outfitted with Samsung tablets. And so they are able to take pictures and attach it to the service request to let us know that the work was completed. Also, on the other end of it, when the NIS does the follow-up, they're also able to attach pictures and on the flip side of it and let you know that the work either wasn't done or was done. So yes, there is space in the software currently for that to take place.
Thank you. So who would request that? Is that at the request? Would we request that as all the people? Is that something? Who would direct these departments to ensure that that's being done? Seeing as we do have, the system that's already set up for that to be completed, and it seems if we already gave them pads, that probably was something that was talked about and should be being done already. Can anybody answer who should be regulating that?
I'll jump in there, I guess.
Thank you.
Honestly, I think at least on our end, if it's something that we choose to do, it's something we could do at any moment. I hate to do that for every pothole, for this, for that, for everything we handle. But on at least the illegal dumping, we could probably start doing that if that was, if it's actually wanted. I don't think I've really heard of too many complaints myself, whether it was dumped, we picked it up and dumped again. I think most people know that it was dumped, picked up and dumped again. But,
Well,
but yeah,
sometimes that's not a regular thing. I mean, of course, folks get that dumping is a continuous thing. 5 tires that are on the side of your house looks the same way that they did today as they would, tomorrow or next week when they put them right back in the same place if somebody got away with doing it. So I think it'd be interesting for our residents because we do have complaints that come to CSB and we ourselves get regular complaints. That's why we come to you and say, hey, was that picked up? Because from the residents' perspective, it wasn't picked up. And for us, it's like, hey, we had a guy out there that took care of that. But it's those repeat offenders. They wait for it to get picked up and put it right back down. It may be a little bit time consuming, but in 2020, it shouldn't take long for somebody to open up a camera and just snap a photo. Therefore, at least on our end, we're covered. We can start letting residents know. We for sure know that this was picked up. We we can go in to that same number that you got, your reference number when you called in this problem or for this service request. There's a photo that said that we did it, we handled it. And it was something that was specifically documented for someone to call. So you should be able to look back in on it and see that it was taken care of. And we should be able to do kind of the same thing if it's set up to do that already. So just in the nature of efficiency, I'd like to kind of see what it looks like with that kind of moving towards into, not to say we're acting old, but just kind of moving towards the 21st century and really utilizing the technologies that exist so we can stop playing the guessing game with certain things.
Yep. Debris.
I appreciate that. The last question I have is with the debris teams. I consistently hear that we don't have teams that actually go through and pick up the pieces of trash in the alley. They'll come through with the skid loaders, bobcats, but the very small pieces of debris, something as small as a candy wrapper. Do we not have a specific team that only picks up debris?
No, not at all. You've seen Willie Young and his guys out there. They're the ones with the typically loaders, every once in a while skid steers or backhoe. Then you got the bolt crews out there picking up the couches and chairs and bed frames or whatever it is. Once it gets smaller than that, there's not currently a program in the city to go after essentially litter or that small stuff.
Okay. I'd also
Alderman Bosley, the best that we do is send out the litter letters to kind of let them know what they should be taken care of in the alley or out in the street. And that's about it. There's really no city agency that goes out and pick that up.
Okay. Well, I'm sure if we had one, it probably would be under the street department. I would hope that the funding that we do get, we know that trash is a big problem. Even though we got this and that going on with the city, we can make it look better, it feel better for all of us. So with that, get an idea of fiscally what it would cost for you all to have a debris team, 1, 2, or 5 people, something that could work efficiently for the city while we have these dollars, while we are having robust conversations about how to utilize funding in the correct way that can help get our city back to a particular place. These are, I think, important pieces of the conversation. Whatever we build, somebody got to keep clean. So with that, you have your crews out there doing things regularly with the skid steers and the bobcats. What would it look like with them having 4 or 5 people out there regularly cleaning up those smaller pieces of paper so it really does look clean when we are finished? I'm not sure how long it take you to come up with those numbers, but before we have a next meeting or next 2, I let the chairwoman, if she can, kind of steer that. She'll steer the next time we meet, but as far as some time frame and when we can get some numbers on that, I would say the quicker the better. We're already having discussions about the budget right now. We're going to release some funding here. This $50 million is being talked about. This creates jobs, and it serves a really, really good psychological purpose for all of us being able to go through a city and see it being clean. So with that, I'll yield back the floor. I could talk a whole lot because, man, streets is my stuff. but I appreciate you.
Thank you, Alderman. I want to do a follow-up. When I first got elected, we used to do street cleaning twice a month. And then under the former Mayor Slay, it went to once a month, which was ridiculous in our urban area. So in your decisions about what you need, can you please put in your decision about what kind of money you would need to really fully fund a department that does the services back to going to street cleaning twice a month, and maybe on our major thoroughfares like Kings Highways, Gravois, Broadway, Grand, North and South. We need to do that more than twice a month. I would say once a week. I mean, I would like to see a fantasy budget that the Alderman was talking about how we service people. We always talk about keeping people in the city. The first thing people do not want to see is trash all over the place, okay? So the difference in street cleaning has made such an awful appearance in our city. Now I get out and pick up trash. I clean up my alley. I live right by Kings Highway. My husband, we get out. People accuse us of having a clean alley because I'm the alderperson. We have a clean alley because we get out and do it. But when I drive this city, it's dirty. And it gets on my nerve just driving it myself. And I'm an alderperson. And I think we need to go back. This is one of the things when I want to sit down with the mayor said, we need to go back to street cleaning the way it was. And I guess I want to ask Randy, what are your number of employees and how many do you think you would need to really pick up trash? And because when I also got elected, we had alley inspectors with the building division, and I don't know if it was streets, and Vince Shameem got rid of that. And people would go in your alleys and you kept those alleys clean. And I think trash is a health issue. Besides being very demoralizing and encouraging people to put more trash there, they don't tend to dump in my alley much because our alleys are very clean. So they don't dump, but they dump where they think they have an opportunity, but that's a health issue. So how many employees do you have right now that work for the refuse?
We're around 148, I believe.
And some of them are specialized, like the people who drive the trucks, they have to have a commercial license, right?
That's correct.
And we, as I understand it, we have been having problems getting enough people to drive these trucks, or has that been rectified?
No, we're still having that issue. Like I said, we have about 50 for our collection routes. We have about 55 routes a day. And on a typical day, I'm lucky if I get 40 drivers here.
And are we doing any kind of training, or is the city set up somewhere we would train people so they could, you know, to me, we ought to have something going Monday through Saturday where we're bringing people in who want to work and training them and having some kind of program. Are you working with Slate or somebody with that right now?
No, we do our training in-house.
You do?
Yes.
So if somebody wanted to be a trash truck driver, what would they do? How would they know that you have in-house training?
Well, I'm not sure. We have billboard refuse trucks. I'm not sure if that says that on there.
But I'm just saying, so right now on the city's personnel side, are we actively recruiting people to work in refuse? Because I know at a point the former mayor had a hiring freeze. Have we opened that back up, and are we looking for people?
I just sent all kinds of recs down. I sent about a dozen utility worker recs down. We just sent 16 recs down for ATO2s. So yeah, I mean, as soon as that hiring freeze was listed, we got everything down there.
And how many people would you like to see working in refuge? You said you had a 148. What would you like to see as the ideal amount of people?
I believe when I started, we were around 170.
Okay.
So we're not too far off from that.
You are so honest. I'd have been like, I need 200. Yeah, you're too honest for your own good. Okay. And could we then shorten if we had full crew or even more than what you asked? Because what I want to see is I want to shorten this time of going back out. I want a crew that attacks picking up dumping. Okay. And 2 bills that I have before us, one of them is about closing off alleys. And I actually have a picture of an alley. I actually passed this board bill back when Francis Slay was still the mayor, and I had 23 people that voted for it. And the last thing he did when he left out of here was he vetoed it, and it was about closing off alleys. Because some of these alleys, unless we block access of people getting into them, especially I have a lot of alleys that are right off of I-70. The people jump off I-70 from the county, dump all that trash, then they're back, okay?
Yes.
And that's all over in different parts of the city. Carol Howard has it down there in South St. Louis, the Alderwoman from the 14th, and it's not fair to us. And that really started when, because I'm the only person here been through 6 mayors, okay? Six mayors: Vince Shameem, Freeman Bosley, Clarence Harmon, Francis Slade, Lida Cruzen, and now to Sharon Jones. I'm on my 6th mayor. When Vince Shameem put those dumpsters back in the 80s, I think, and then we didn't pay an extra fee. I think a lot of county people got the thought that, oh, well, they get free trash pickup and we have to pay out here. And they started making their way over to the dumpsters. Before that, we had trash cans. And to me, I have watched this in the last 30 years that I've been associated with the Board of Aldermen. I've watched this trash situation just get out of hand, okay? Because you do such a great job. If I call you and say, hey, somebody's dumping, you or Will, y'all, you get it up. But if it's right back there the next week, we have to look to some other way to stop that. So I start looking around and I start seeing these nice clean alleys in the Central West End. And, but it was interesting to me because they had city dumpsters in those nice clean alleys with those nice gates up there. And so I only have 3 or 4 people, no, it was 5 people that voted against my bill that got passed that Mayor Slate vetoed. But one of them was Mayor Cruzen. But all these alleys I saw that were closed off was in the 28th Ward. And so I need to find out from you. I'm going to need a list of all the closed alleys that you have in the city, if they are private or are they just closed. And I did, when I went out and took these pictures, because I used to live right around the corner from where the former mayor lives. I lived in the Central Quarter, I lived in South St. Louis and North St. Louis. I did call Refuse and just said, well, hey, how do you guys get in there? And they said, oh, well, we use the code or a card. So, and I'm saying that to say, that's where I'm going with many of my alleys, to close off one end and give a code or a card to the trash drivers. Because as long as people have access, and I actually had called the current mayor when she was the treasurer to start talking to her about just even putting like the gates that we have to get onto City Hall, to put some kind of gate up and to try it in several neighborhoods to see if that would cut down on the dumping. Because how do, what other things can you give me to do except for to restrict access that would stop the dumping? Because I know putting up cameras, that's great in a way, but you know, people find ways to go around cameras and then you still got that dumping again, okay? In some of my alleys, they have taken to stolen vehicles, or they have temporary plates that are that came from 10 years ago, or they have, now we're wearing masks so we don't even see people's faces. So again, I'm just looking for if you have any other thing, because what I'm coming with is to close some of my alleys down and test where there is extreme dumping. And I wanted to know if you knew if there was any hardship on the drivers if they had to have a code or a card to get into these nice, clean, pristine alleys that they have in the 28th Ward. No hating on the 28th Ward, because I want my alleys to be pristine like
Yeah,
like
no issues that I know of, but I don't think we have, you know, that many alleys that we do like that. I mean,
but you have some.
Yeah, I think it's just like a handful of alleys.
Okay. And I understand that, but I want to make it, I remember when we start closing streets off and it was called defensible streets. And we just had a handful of those, okay? And now we have many, many, many streets closed. So if something is working, I'm just saying, what else could we do? We put the cameras up. They come and do that anyway. You come and clean it up. It comes back. Now, I have told people what I find is that the cleaner the alley, the less likely people are to dump, or the more used the alley. My alley is one that we got 43 houses on the alley, and probably 37 of them have garages. So we use our alley a lot. So people tend to keep their alley, part of the alley clean. And then there's always people in and out. So it's less chance for you to dump without getting caught. But I live near Kings Highway. And so where there is any kind of dumping is right near Kings Highway, where people get out and they put it at that first dumpster. My husband and I, we go out and clean it up because we don't want to look at it. But is there any other thing you all have come up with that really would prevent, short of closing alleys, that would prevent people from repeatedly, who are often from outside the city of St. Louis, dumping? Is there anything that you've come up with?
I mean, giving everybody a roll cart and, making them responsible for their own trash. I mean, if that location could handle that, that's an option, but
Yes.
you'd have to get everybody on board.
Yes.
People love their alley dumpsters.
Right.
It's tough to get them to switch to a roll cart.
Now, I will agree with you. Several places where I had big time dumping, I did switch to roll carts and it cleaned it up. I mean, immensely. It's like, that's why I think that the people think, oh, those dumpsters in the city, that's okay. The other problem we have is the contractors who, when they're rehabbing a house, they don't want to hire a dumpster. And so they just keep filling up. I just sent you a thing that's going on there. And so do you have any suggestions for us about fines or what we could do to make those contractors stop doing that, especially if we know who it is? Should we be fining them $500 every time, or is there something where we can make them understand this is not acceptable, that while you're rehabbing this house?
Yeah, I mean, that's when we catch them, my foremen are pretty good. I mean, when they see that going on, they get a hold of me right away, and I get a hold of the trash police. And a lot of times we're successful in identifying where that's coming from. And I believe they get a summons for like $500. I think they have to do community service, things like that. So my foremen are pretty good. They keep their eyes peeled when they're out there. They see a lot of that stuff.
Okay. And about do you know how much of the bulk you pick up or trash that you pick up that's maybe illegal dumping? Do you have any idea about how much that is?
I would have no idea how much is illegal dumping. A lot of times with my ball crews, I got to have them go through the alleys twice, because even the residents, they'll forget that it's their bulk week and they'll set it out in the middle of the week. So
right. And do you know about what the cost is for, are you picking up bulk dumping? Do you have any costs associated with that at all?
Not offhand, but I can get that for y'all for sure.
Okay, because that's the kind of thing is, do we want to just, keep picking up illegal dumping? Is there a way to address it that we could bring our costs down? So if that's something you could work on in the next couple of weeks, I'd appreciate it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's all the questions I have. Did I address everybody on the committee? Because I see several people here that are not on the committee. I want to give them a chance to ask questions. Okay. We're going to start with Alderman Todd. Did you have any questions?
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Is Mr. Flake in? Commissioner Flake. I have a question for him. I submitted sidewalks.
We can't hear you. Can you get closer to your mic? Thank you.
I submitted sidewalks more than 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. Mr. Minden said that he was working on them in our ward, but I haven't, he did one, but I haven't seen the rest. Can you tell me when will you all finish the sidewalks, since you said it take about a year to get to them, but mine's been submitted more than a year?
Yep, I'm gonna check on that and get back to you.
Okay.
I seen the email you sent Friday or Thursday or somewhere in there. So yeah, let me check on that and get back to you.
Okay, so you did see the email?
Yes.
Okay, the other question is, I drive through my alley a lot, and I see dumping. When you all do bulk pickup, also trash and no yard waste pickup, can you all go? Why can't you all just on a consistent basis just go drive through the alley and clean the whole alley where it's been dumped? I see sometimes where you go and pick up dumping where I've called for you to pick it up, but then there's other dumping that's there and you all don't pick it up. Why don't you just clean the whole alley? If I call about one dumping, why can't you just pick up all the dumping as you go through all the alleys?
Yeah, it depends on if we're talking about bulk or what we're talking about.
I'm talking about I'm talking about just regular dumping, where you go through for dumping, but you go through for a specific house. I give you a specific address in my ward, for example. But then there's other dumping in the same alley. Why can't you just pick it all up and just go on throughout the alley and on down and just clean up the whole area?
That is typically what we do. But I think it comes probably back to the size and quantity of what's there. Typically, if there's piles of stuff that have been illegally dumped in an alley, we will pick up all those piles of stuff that have been illegally dumped in an alley. This goes back to a conversation we had earlier with, I think it was Brandon, about litter. And once you start getting the smaller, little Walmart bag or something like that, compared to what I'm picking up with a front loader.
Okay, I guess the main point too is the other question is with the front load. Why, I guess you start at 8 o'clock. I guess I'm saying, why can't you just have people out there to 4 and just front loading and just leave the front loader there and then just keep on moving on down and just really clean it up like that, rather than, actually rather than almost going back to your, going back to the place where you park the trucks, just clean up the whole area.
Well, the only thing we don't do out of that is leave the wheel loaders on the street, because I don't like leaving $160,000 vehicles just laying around. And in most parts of this city, they won't have any windows in them tomorrow. But typically, Willie Young runs a debris program, or illegal dumping program. And once he starts getting caught up on CSBs like he is currently, he will grid ward by ward by ward until he gets too overwhelmed with CSBs or service requests. So typically, I believe your ward and at least 3 or 4 others, I know we've gridded. We don't do it often, but I know we grid every alley at least once a year, and at least 3 or 4 different wards.
My last question, I'm planning on some cleanups in a couple of weeks with the residents. Will you be able to do, if they are dumping, will you be able to send somebody out to help front load, which you did before? I want to thank you for that. I want to know, will you be able to do that for a couple of more alleys that are in pretty bad shape?
Absolutely. Just give me a heads up, shoot me an email.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. And thank you for you're very cooperative. I work with you, and thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, I see are you still here? Or do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. No questions.
Okay. Alderman Stevens, how about yourself?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I don't really have any questions, but if I could take a moment to express my thanks, I would appreciate it, if it's all the same to you.
Okay.
And thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to say thank you to Kent and Randy and everyone else, as well as Ms. Essence, for your service to the city. I know that I'm a bit of a broken record on that front, but I'm happy to be broken in that front. In my sort of day-to-day living in what is an almost exclusively residential ward, I consider it a rather good day if the biggest thing I have to worry about is confusion with the trash schedule. And I do have an email that I sent to you about that, Randy, regarding that, some concerns on Upton and Morganford. But otherwise, again, thank you for your service, Ms. Essence. I want to say directly to you especially, major thank you for Kathy Savage and everything that she did. I saw that you were in this meeting and wanted to make a point to further that myself. So my neighborhood improvement specialist cannot be improved upon herself, for she is already. Seriously, I am in such major debt to Miss Kathy Savage. So thank you.
But thank you, Alderman.
Of course. And then to everyone, if there's anything I can ever assist with, Randy, I am trying to do the legwork to educate my public on bulk pickup. I promise. I will attest to that. I am trying to educate them, behind their parcel, not next to the dumpsters, what constitutes bulk pickup and all that. But if there's anything I can ever communicate to Ward 12 constituents on anyone's behalf, I remain on standby, not the rate to do so. So just let me know. But once more, being that broken record I am, thank you all. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. I do have a question. Jamie, you have gotten through this with relatively no questions at all. How is that? Who is in
We just ran
charge?
out of time, didn't we?
Who is in charge of every year when school starts back? I see all these crosswalks that really need to be repainted. And I'm just really disappointed about that. It seemed like that we should paint crosswalks bright for our children, especially I have both sides of Kings Highway, and I have children that have to cross that. So it used to be, I think, many years ago, and again, when you have more people, that every year they would freshen up the crosswalks. What happened to that?
That's still our goal, to get through them once a year, as well as restripe the roads, some maybe even twice, depending on how major they are. But if you've got some that have faded, regardless of what our planned maintenance is, let me know about that, especially at school. Obviously, we'll prioritize that and get that done.
Okay, and then you and I are gonna have a conversation about taking down my traffic light at Maffett and Kings Highway. And after I specifically have been telling people to leave it there, we left it because it had a push button, and sometimes that's all we have between that and people driving 500 miles an hour between Martin Luther King and St. Louis Avenue. Well, I guess we have a traffic light at Coke Brilliant, but we're gonna have a conversation about that. So, and so you do, that is still your policy to stripe, restripe, and to put crosswalks in about once a year where you need it?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right. And is there any change in policy about traffic lights? Because I'm seeing more and more different places where traffic lights are disappearing, not just at my corner. So has there been a change in policy about that?
No, they're not a change. We acknowledge and usually follow the national standards for getting a signal warrant for the initial installation. So some have changed, and those are based a lot on traffic volumes. Actually, a fairly highly threshold of traffic volumes to warrant a signal. That a lot of times signals were put in, 50, 60 years ago that no longer have the same traffic levels they used to have. But it's more of an exception to the case that those are actually pulled, versus once they're in, I probably wouldn't put a new one in some places where the traffic volumes have died off. So either equipment's malfunctioning or it gets to a point where it's getting difficult to maintain. That's when we look at the possibility of taking a signal down that no longer has that traffic volume to warrant in the first place. Kind of a balancing act with the maintenance that's required for it to keep it going.
And it's not been your policy to let the alderperson know?
Usually that would occur, but I'm sensing that did not occur. So
it didn't occur in several places. Okay.
We can address that.
So now, when you remove the traffic light, do you also remove all the internal things? So say that person, the alderperson says, I want that traffic light there, or I want to, like, some of them are old and terrible looking. I might even pay for a new one. Do you remove all the electrical parts that would be able to put a new light back up a lot cheaper than if you take everything out? How do you do that? Or how's that decision made?
The underground's there. Some of the above surface to connect to it would have to be reworked to get that back in, but I'm writing it down right now that you want to talk about installing new signals. So where I want mine is at
Kings Highway and Natural Bridge, because we put that left turn, which has been widely, people love it. You can make a left west and head on Martin Luther King, but I want to put something nicer. And I also want it to be, I don't know what you call it, where people can drive straight. The people who are heading north on Kings Highway can drive all 3 lanes, because people still do not observe that 2-lane restriction that we did. So we had 3 lanes going, and you have it, I guess you changed the different lights so that when north and south Kings Highway, they can go just straight, then they stop it, and then they can left turns. So I want to do something like that, a little bit more sophisticated. And I'll pay for it, but it doesn't work with us restricting it to 2 lanes there. But the people love that we can put a left turn lane there. So I will talk to you about that separately.
Okay.
And so I think that we have covered everything that I had questions. Is there anybody here that still had any questions? Yes, Ms. Owens.
So I got a little bit of information from the EIU team on the alley cameras and the cost.
Okay.
So they said it cost about $1,000 for the alley cameras to be built and installed. So they pay people to actually put them together once they get them. So that includes software application download and also the hardware to be ready to be installed by the streets department.
It's $1,000, you say?
$1,000 each, yeah. And so
Okay.
they are planning at looking at different technology like live streaming, because right now currently they can only do the snapshots.
Okay, and how are they, do we make that decision about putting in alley cameras? Because is this different than the police had some alley cameras I thought that they were putting in? Is this a different program or is this all part of the same program?
So originally the way they were putting up the alley cameras was based off of the legal dumping service request. So if we had a pocket of them that were right in one little cluster, they decided to put a camera there. I don't know how it's transformed over the years, but originally that's how it was.
And let's get to that. So I always get these calls from my constituents who, when they call Citizen Service Bureau, then they call me and say, well, they told me, call your Alderwoman. She raises a lot of hell, so just call her and she'll make it. I hear this. Now, it's not wrong. I do raise a lot of hell, so that part is not wrong. But I'm trying to teach them how to be self-sufficient. So I was gone for 10 years. And so they need to know how to get things. When I was off the board, because they tore my ward up, there's a portion where they had 3 different aldermen and they were trying to get a car removed. And they got so mad that they called me and they said, I know you're not the alder person, but can you please do this? And I did get it done, but my whole point, could you please tell your people not to tell them to call the alderman unless it's just necessary? Because they should be able to be empowered. They don't need an alder person. Yes, I will help them if I can. And yes, their alder person raises a whole bunch of hell, but they need to know how the process works. And then to call you back and say, hey, you told me this was going to be done in 2 weeks and it's not. So I'm just asking you to caution your staff not to do that, because that gives them permission to call me right back, which I don't mind talking to my constituents. I like them. And a lot of them I represented for 30 years, but let them at least learn how the system works. Can I ask that of you and your staff, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, can I have a request of you and maybe some other people who are on this call as well? When you have somebody who says that, could you please call me, email me something and let me know the date and time they call, because every call is recorded in CSB.
And I know, in fact, I told them, what I tell my people is when they tell them that, say, please give me your name, because my Alderwoman said that she is going to report you for saying that, okay? So I have no problem. I tell them that all the time. Alderman Kennedy had part of my ward for a while, and the first week he got it, he called me and said, as soon as redistricting come, I'm getting your ward back, because these people, if I tell them something, they show up and they say, that is not true. The Alderwoman from the 20th ward told us this. And here's the paperwork, because, you know, I do paperwork. So I have no problem in reporting. And I tell them to tell your people, if they tell them that, get their name, because I'm going to report them. So I have no problem with that. But just encourage them to learn how to be empowered themselves. As the Alderwoman from the 17th has said. Citizens don't need to rely on a politician most times. We should be doing our jobs, and we should be making it as easy as possible. And we should be providing services to all parts of the city equally. In saying that, I have a question. When I was the chair of public employees, came upon me that there was a agreement with the trash truck drivers, which I reported to Mr. Franks, in which the senior drivers were able to pick their routes and their trucks. And that ended up having all the new trucks and the senior people going to South St. Louis, which Alderman from the first race, a whole bunch of hell wrote it up, and they took it out of the agreement with the employees who drove the trash trucks. I want to know, I've been hearing, because I have several people, a lot of people live in my ward, not a lot, but some, and adjacent wards that work for the street department, that is being instituted again. And I want to know if that's true in any way, form, or shape.
That's absolutely not happening. I mean, we don't put all our new trash trucks in South St. Louis. It's evenly divided out.
But this was not untrue. When we got the agreement out, because Mr. Franks and I got it out, that was part of their agreement. And I don't know if people were trying to be unfair. It's just that it was something they had negotiated, but the impact was very unfair to North St. Louis. And then when they did change it, because I had raised hell, because as soon as the the former mayor from the 28th, when she got in office, she raised the prices from 11 to 14. And then I raised hell because if I'm paying more money and I'm getting less services, I did not like that. I'm like, hey, we're not getting the services we're supposed to. And so one of the things I'm going to be working with you and talking to you about is I want to know about what our trash force looks like, what our vehicles look like. I'm actually going to be taking some trips with the committee and anybody who wants to come out, go to the both of our dumps, come out to see our vehicles. I know we've been buying some new ones and some smaller ones, but some of the larger ones, I tell you, I have a family room that's near my alley, and boom, when they come through sometimes. So I want to just look at how we're doing with updating, how we're doing with dumpsters and things like that. So we're going to be visiting all segments of the city, of the street department to see how things work. But I just wanted to caution you in case that was true. Please don't let that be true, because that will upset me if we're getting all the vehicles to one side of the city and not the other ones. Okay.
I would never put myself in that situation.
I don't think that people did it thinking, because the truth is that one of the mayor's former directors lives in my ward. And when he heard about it, he called and he said, oh, I met with the mayor and said, I'm upset. And of course, I just don't think people thought that through. They thought that was a benefit to give to the workers. But if all workers pick one side of town versus another one, that's not fair. So I just wanted to make sure that and I've talked to the personnel director about making sure that does not happen again either.
That is definitely not happening. I promise you that.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody that I missed? Okay. I want to thank you, gentlemen. I know this has been a long kind of meeting. I do have a board bill I want to try to get passed. I'm only going to try to do one. So if nobody else has any questions for them, you guys can go out and start making sure we get our trash picked up, our streets paved, and our crosswalks painted, and make sure all our traffic lights are working correctly. And thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate it. And next time you're at that table, I want to say, I love men, but I do like it when there's some diversity. And I would love to see a woman sitting in one of those spots. And I'm going to just leave it right there, okay? I don't want anybody fired, but diversity is good. And women are powerful people. And they're organized. And they can get a lot of stuff done. So you might want to think about that. That's all I have to say. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye. Okay, so we got to ask questions, committee members. So the next thing I'm trying to put together is a trip down to the dumps to both north and south. And I'll be looking for that paperwork that they're going to give us. And as I get it, if you don't get it, I'll make sure I question if you've gotten it, and then I'll share it. Did I lose my, oh no, my vice chair? I need you to take over because I have a board bill that I want to present before the committee. I'm only going to do one. It's this time just moves too fast. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Bosley. Up. There you go.
I am here. I apologize.
No problem. I'm trying to see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I think we still have our quorum. I would like to present Board Bill 40, which is the bill I introduced a couple, about the traffic calming policy. I'm not going to touch the alley bill again because I have a big file that I'm going to get uploaded and share with you about closing alleys and what it does and what other cities have done. And until I get that all before you. I don't want to present the bill, but I would like to present Board Bill 40 before the committee to ask for a do pass recommendation.
Move that we pass Board Bill.
I need to present it to the committee first.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and I'd ask for Madam Clerk, just to read the little subject matter, please.
I'm sorry, Chairwoman Tyus, which one were we discussing, 40 or 41?
40.
40. Board Bill 40, sponsored by Alderwoman Sharon Tyus, and ordinance amending sections 2 and 3 of ordinance number 70333 related to the City of St. Louis traffic calming policy and containing an emergency clause.
Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the board, Board Bill 40 was introduced over a period of time, talking to different aldermen, and actually the former chair of this committee, who's on this committee now, he, myself, Jamie Wilson of the Street Department, and Rich Brelli of the BPS had a meeting about traffic calming and the speed humps. A number of older people wanted to do speed humps, and I had put my request in when we still had Deanna Vanaker as the chair, as the commissioner of streets, and it never got done. Everything kind of has gotten slowed down because we don't have enough staff. And so when we went to start trying to get humps, other people had gotten them done, but many people all of a sudden heard that it would be $900 a study to do this. And so we had some people who are members of the board had asked for 10, 15, 20 speed humps on different streets and had been turned down. And they were lamenting that if they had paid $900 a study, that they would then be have paid $25,000, $30,000 and they would be turned down. In meeting with Mr. Bradley and Mr. Wilson, one of the things Mr. Bradley talked about as the chair of BPS is that, as the director of BPS, is that there would be this, that there could be a problem because we wanted to make sure the speed humps were safe, and that, so that's why they were commissioning the study. I argued with him that since they're making the speed humps individually for each street, that the safety would be that they had to make sure that they built them right and designed them right. He ultimately did yield to that. This past year, I probably put in on, and I didn't have to do a speed study. I put in on my communities. I went one community at a time and did most of the streets. And people who did not believe in the speed studies have called me and just have been so happy. I also did not go along with, they would say put 2 or 3 speed humps. We put 3 or 4 in one community. And I have 5 neighborhoods that I represent. And in another neighborhood, a lot of the streets were already closed from when I was the 20th ward. So we just did them on the streets that were not closed. The end result has been every place we have put them, the people have been wildly supportive of them. We would have liked not to spend that kind of money on speed humps, but right now we have a problem with not having enough traffic cops. We need traffic cops. We need traffic patrol. I have talked to the police on many occasions about it. It is all across the city. The people drive 100 miles an hour. They will go around you on the left side if you're making a left turn. We cannot address the large streets such as Kings Highway, Gravois, Broadway, but some of the side streets, there was a way to address them with speed humps. And I actually was getting emails and pictures every day of people who had their cars knocked up into their front yards and things like that. We installed speed humps. And I want to tell you, I have not had, where we have had those speed humps installed, I have not had one more complaint about people hitting cars. And what I have gotten was that people avoid their streets. They tend to go on the secondary streets, which was the way they should have been in the first place. St. Louis has a very old street grade grade. So they laid everything out very straight in a lot of neighborhoods. And so people can drive from the 400 block to the 5200 block straight through. And that made for them thinking that they could just drive through neighborhoods. We were getting ready to lose a lot of our community back in the 90s, and I started closing streets, and that saved them. But we didn't close all the streets, but where we did not close streets, we have put in the last year or so speed humps, and that again has made people decide that they wanted to stay because they see the difference in traffic. So I was here before we could put speed humps, and people used to talk about speed bumps, and speed bumps are higher, and we always took a cautionary tale about putting up high bumps, because if they hit them and they're going too fast, we didn't want them to go up in the air, be airborne to vehicles, and then hit other vehicles or pedestrians or anything like that. So we back in, I want to say in 2016, we came up with a speed, we had a traffic calming policy, and we passed an ordinance back August of 2016. At that time, we still did not allow speed humps or bumps. Right after that, we finally did agree that we were going to allow speed humps, not bumps, and they were lower, and they were not part of traffic calming. But on the last days of one of the alderperson leaving, he did propose that. We went along with that, and then that got us in the thing of having have speed humps be part of traffic calming, and then they have to go to the street director, and especially when you talk about on your residential streets, and that became a problem, and it became a backup. And once they admitted that we didn't really need the traffic study, what I proposed to the street director and to BPS is that we get rid of the studies unless an alderman wants it. But even if they wanted it, we do an in-house study on the street that was proposed for speed humps, and that in no way we pay $900. That is just too much money. The other thing I did propose is that residential streets, alleys in this bill, residential streets, alleys, that we could, as aldermen, propose them much as we do stop signs, and that it would be up to us to politically decide where we need these speed humps. So after talking with them, and they have concerns. I got a call from somebody in the mayor's office, but they said it wasn't the mayor, it was them personally, and they wanted to bring me up to speed. And I told them, you just got here. I've been doing this for 3 years and working on this. And I invited them to go out to my neighborhoods where we had already put them and talk to any of the residents who are overjoyed. And their big concern was about, well, if you put them here, it might affect the street. If you put a stop sign, it affects the street. Whatever you do in your community, it affects the street. And they talked about doing a long-term study, which takes years. In the meantime, I don't have that time. If we're not going to have police officers who are going to be doing traffic, which I suggested to the police, that they hire part-time police, that they put them all over the city and not work full-time, and that their job be traffic. But if we're not going to have traffic police, then these speed humps was what was working best, and that aldermen should be in the best, they were in the best seat to decide if they needed them in their areas or not, and also that they could be taken up. If we found out they didn't work, I know when they first started doing speed humps, they actually did some rubber ones that they installed, and I think they put them in the 27th ward, and I'm still not quite sure why they don't do that, because they were a lot less expensive. But I do know that the ones that I've installed, which I picked, nobody made a recommendation. I knew what I wanted and what I needed in my communities and from requests, and I was able to respond to that, and it's been wildly successful. And I think all the people have more of a hands-on view of their ward that they represent than a bureaucrat. No disrespect to Jamie or to Richard, but I think we know. And so this board bill basically removes the request for traffic calming for speed humps in residential alleys or residential streets or secondary streets that are not bus routes, that we be allowed to submit them, and that they be okayed by BPS, and we should be able to get them done in a timely fashion. And that is what this board bill does. And by the way, I also have co-sponsors of Alderman Jesse Todd and Alderman Joseph Bacaro are my co-sponsors.
You can add me as a co-sponsor also, please.
Okay.
It has to be added also.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
Alderman Todd, Alderman Bacaro, Alderman Bosley, and Alderwoman Boyd.
Yes. And I think Alderman Muhammad had asked, but he's not here, so I don't want to put him on until I make sure I talk to him. And I'll answer any questions that people have or concerns.
I'm just gonna go.
Mr. Chairman, you open for questions?
Virtual, or is that kind of the idea that if you want to come in person, you can. If you want to do virtual, you can do that as well?
Seems like there's a camera going in the background. Somebody's camera.
There are members who just don't cook.
All right. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to assume chair role?
That's what I had asked you. I thought you were doing that already. I was presenting to you.
Sorry,
Yes. Whenever I'm presenting a bill, you will be running it.
Yeah.
My apologies. Well, yes, sir. We'll take questions here from the committee.
Boyd.
Alderman Boyd.
Sure. Comment. I hate speed humps. And the reason I hate speed humps, I hate them the way I hate bars on windows. As the chairwoman said, we don't have traffic enforcement. We need more traffic enforcement. And I certainly would support part-time traffic cops if that's what it takes. Because people certainly feel like when they go through the county, they drive the speed limit. When they hit the city, they can go 90 miles an hour, and that's not fair. And we need to create a paradigm shift. But I've been here only 18 years and been asking and talking about it for 18 years, but it goes on deaf ears with the police department. But I love the idea of some part-time. Maybe some retired police officers could come and work with the city and just do traffic.
That was my suggestion.
That's thinking differently. We get so complacent when we can only do it one way. And I think that would be a lot more helpful than proliferating our neighborhoods with all these speed humps all over the place. Now, of course, when my constituents asked for them, I put it on the list. And unfortunately, even as chairman of streets, it took over a year to get the first speed hump almost, or I say the second set, over a year. And there were like 20 something requests. And I think what bogs it down is the fact that they have to do all these speed studies. And the latest policy is 5 per ward annually. But I tell you what, with getting beat up about speed humps so much, I have come around to the fact that I don't have to have a speed study. It's fine with me because the constituents don't understand. And then when you tell them that, well, it doesn't really show that the majority of the people are speeding, they don't want to hear that. Or at least the ones that are most vocal that can hurt you don't want to hear that. And so, you know, sometimes you just got to give people what they want. And then you sit back and say, well, that's what you asked for when it doesn't turn out that way. And I'm glad the Alderwoman from the first ward talked about how they really just moved to another street. And unfortunately, it's like water. You got to fix the whole roof. You just can't fix one spot because as soon as you fix that one spot, it's going to travel to the other spot where there's a hole in it. And that is what's happening on these streets. So they'll avoid the street with 2 or 3 speed humps and they'll go down the next street. So guess what's going to happen? The residents on that street is going to ask for speed humps. And so before you know it, 100% of the streets in the city of St. Louis that are not thoroughfare like Kings Highway and Union, you know, well-traveled, are probably going to have speed humps. And it's not going to be very attractive at all. I'm also somebody that's not a big proponent of stop signs because studies have showed that stop signs add to pollution and it's not helpful. And oftentimes I find that, and I've actually sat out for some hours just watching people on the stop sign. And one of these days I'm gonna have my video camera and just show it. I just don't think enough people are gonna watch 3 hours worth of video with all these people just driving through the stop sign like it doesn't exist. And it's real unfortunate. I just have commentary. I'm gonna, vote yes on the bill, but I think we really need to fix the problem. We need more enforcement. And it's real unfortunate that the aldermen are expected to use their capital money to do these speed humps. And these speed humps are not cheap. And so even if they cost $4,000, when you do 10 of them, that's $40,000. On average, it takes about $15,000 to $20,000 to repave a street. So there's a lot of juggling going on. And I think some of this stuff needs to be taken off the alderman's capital, fund. And I like what the chairwoman is saying about how I think she's in agreement with that. And that's something she wants to look into. I just feel like sometimes they're just stealing our capital money. We're paying for not only the materials, we're paying for personnel. I mean, we're paying for almost everything, to the point where you might as well not have the money. You might as well just say, here's the money, do what you want to with it. Dumpsters included. And the chairwoman mentioned about going to 2 months, 2 sweeps a month. I like to go back to free trash pickup. I really thought that was a nice amenity for people to want to move in the city. They wouldn't have to deal with, finding trash service. Like in the county, they got 90-some municipalities, and some of them have, different people that pick up trash. And so I thought that was a neat little bonus for living in the city. So anyway, I'll shut up because we've been at this a long time. I'm going to support the bill.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Vaccaro.
Yeah, I just making sure that this then will eliminate, because they're still making me do traffic studies where I know where Alderwoman Tyus, she said they're not doing them in your ward, they're putting them in where you want, which they're still, I mean, I have areas at one of them that they're saying, nope, not gonna do it. And they're saying you're allowed the 5 speed studies. Will this bill do away with that and allow me to put him wherever I want him?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, and I just wanted to make triple sure, because what I'm going to do is say, look, if 80% of the people on the block want them, because I've had some of the opposite effects where they've been put in somewhere and the people get upset they're in there, they're by their house. I've actually had to take one out. But it's funny because some people want them, some don't. But but this will allow me to say, look, if you get a petition on the block and you want them, we'll get them.
Yes. In fact, I do a petition in my ward on every street that I had. I did a petition first. I sent it out. They had to sign it, send back. So we have, I will share my process with anybody who's interested in it. It works. So then the residents are in control of their streets and they feel like they're part. And I love participatory, where the residents feel like they may not love the look of speed humps, but they like less people plowing into their cars and vehicles and up in their yards and things like that. So yes, you will be able to make that decision yourself and speak. And there is no need for a speed study. That is absolutely, long as you build the speed humps correctly and you design them correctly, that's all that's needed. And it takes care of the liability. So the liability is if we would incorrectly design a speed hump.
Well, I think what you're going to see next is the street department, since they control the cost, they're probably just going to triple or quadruple the cost and say, well, we'll just make them $50,000 a piece, put them wherever you want. I do think that somehow or another, we need to, we need to see, because I think speed humps are done through a bid process. And I think we need to be able to see those bids. The other thing I would caution, I understand about more traffic enforcement, but I can remember under Slay, I'm trying to think of his name. Well, anyway, one of the guys that likes to represent a bunch of different companies, wanted to represented a group of city police officers that wanted to start their own company, that wanted to do traffic enforcement. I think the issue back then, if I remember, was they get a part of the tickets, which means that you'd probably see a lot of tickets written, but then you might run into a different problem of profiling, or maybe not profiling, but people might say they were profiling. But I think, I do think you'd get a lot of tickets written, and I think that company's still out there. I do know, like in the Central West End, they hire their own off-duty police force. But I do know back then that Mayor Slay at the time, opposed it because the issues that could come out of a private department doing, issuing traffic tickets, then getting a percent. I think you get into close to the red light camera stuff where, you'll start getting tickets for doing a half a mile an hour over the speed limit.
Alderman, I didn't want to make it private. I wanted the city police department to hire part-time police officers. We have many of them live in my ward, and put them on traffic. They didn't have to be full-time. We can move them around. We wouldn't get into that issue of privatization. These will be police officers. They just wouldn't work full-time. And some of them I've already spoken to, so they would love to do something like that. They don't want to work full-time. We've already trained them. They still live in our city. So that was just me thinking outside the box.
Well, no, I'm all for it. I was all for the sheriff's department being trained to do traffic tickets. I mean, I think there's a lot of things out there, that we can do. But I just, I'm on board with this bill. I just wanted to caution, why, there's companies out there that would love to do it, but I think you might get into a problem. I just because I had some knowledge, I thought I would share it.
Thank you.
No, I'm on board. I'm good with previous role. I'm good with this bill.
Thank you, sir. Alderwoman Moore.
Alderwoman Boyd is next.
Alderwoman Boyd, I'm sorry. Alderwoman Boyd.
No questions.
Now Alderwoman Morton. She's not here. Alderman Todd.
No, he's not on. Schweitzer and Peel.
It's like there's Alderwoman Hubbard is here also.
Yeah, but on the committee, Schweitzer is next.
Oh, gotcha. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hear the issue here because I get requests for speed studies or for speed humps more than almost anything else that people email me about. The concern I have about removing the process of the speed study, if we want to, I see that there's we could do a speed study if we wanted, is just that, we'll be installing speed humps just without any sort of input from, data, any sort of data-driven decision. Same time, I do see that we install stop signs because people complain enough, and that's something that they want enough that we do an ordinance, and it seems like this is kind of the same process as a stop sign. So I understand that is why that might make more sense. At this time, it sounds like even if I voted no or present, that there looks like there's the votes to pass. So at this time, my plan would be to be a present vote and then to talk to you, hopefully more, Chairwoman Tyus, to understand more of how this might affect things, and hear more. And I really do appreciate the creative thinking, because it is something that a lot of people in my ward are asking for all the time. And I appreciate this board bill. Thank you.
So I want to respond a little bit. We still would not be able to put them on major streets. We still would not be able to put them on bus routes. And the reason I was able to get things done this past summer is because I had put my request in years ago. And so then, I had to raise a lot of heck to get it done. And I would bring you over to my communities, and Alderman from the 22nd said he doesn't like the look of them, but the people on the streets love them. I would let you talk to them. They're like this, okay, thank you. Because when the choice becomes, you would love to have the police, but you're not having them on your streets the way you should, or somebody plowing into your vehicle or driving too fast and maybe hitting a person. The speed humps was an easy answer for me, okay? And I did double what the BPS had recommended, and it made such a difference. And I did them on all the streets. And people may not think that, oh, that looks terrible, but for the residential community, they like that. Okay, and I'm one person, but I'm here to service my community. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but I've been going through each community and doing that. And I have a Penrose, I ran out of money, but I got some more and they're waiting for their part and I want to do it. And I will work if it was any alderman that I was adversely affecting, like Alderwoman Boyd and I have a street that we both represent. So I didn't do one there because I wanted us to work together. So, you know, you still can work together with other alder people, but while we wait for a study, which may take a year or two, and while we wait for whatever other thing that they come up, this has worked for me. And I would invite anybody, I'll take you on a drive to see and just stop anybody who I can go just knock on the door where there's a speed hump and they'll tell you how much they love them. Okay. So I wish there was some other way to do it. And I don't necessarily want to spend all my ward capital money, which has been reducing down. I actually have found out how much we used to get when we first got it in 1994 versus now. But if it saves lives, I actually got hit by a car when I was 6 years old. So that has always stuck with me. Anything that I think that saves lives and then second property, then it's worth it for me. So I understand what your position is and I'll answer any questions that you have off camera at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Sweetie. Tina Phil. Sorry about that.
Peel.
Tina Peel. My apologies.
That's why I say 17.
Alderwoman for the 17th. There it is.
Thank you.
You seem to be breaking up, Alderwoman, or is it just my phone?
It's breaking up.
Okay.
I don't think this bill.
Alderwoman for the 17th, you still are having some technical issues there with your line.
Everything's on.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Am I breaking? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have any questions regarding this. I think it is a good policy for right now. And so I vote, I'm a yay vote, an aye yes vote.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Alderwoman from the first, you're welcome to close.
We have the 18th and the 26th here if they want to ask questions.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman from the 18th.
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Alderwoman from the 26th.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the first, and you are free to close.
Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the committee, I renew my request that you pass out board bill number 40 with the due pass recommendation to the full board.
I move that we pass out board bill 40 with the due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
No.
There was an objection.
Right.
I'm sorry. Seeing that we have an objection, Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel.
Yes, aye.
Chairwoman Tyus.
Aye.
6
Thank you.
aye
By your
votes
vote.
and 1 voted present.
Thank you. By your vote, you sustain the motion to pass out board bill 40 with the due pass recommendation. Alderwoman Tyus.
Okay, I'll take back the reins now. Thank you so much. I have the best vice chair in the world, and he does too.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna bring up 41 again because I need to get you the documentation for that. So, and plus we've been in this thing, this meeting for much too long. I want to thank everyone. Is there anything that anyone needs to bring up? Because if not, I'm going to entertain a motion to. Yes, sir. Alderman from the 23rd.
So I know that I'm interested in working on something that I put together before on the toll lot, and I know you're working on something.
We're getting ready to have hearings.
Right, and I just want to make sure, because I'm interested in that. So we'll get that going pretty shortly.
So next meeting, I have two things from Alderwoman from the 2nd, and whatever else I'll bring it through, but we'll start putting together how our timeline will be for hearings. Right, we're going to get that started.
Okay, yeah, because
but I don't have any predisposed thoughts about where this is going. Okay, for me, hearings is you do an investigation and let the facts take you wherever they may.
Okay, I just, I mean, I know that I wrote the bill that, if you're a victim of a crime, and I know that there's got to be some changes made to it, because we had a lady that bought a car from Don Brown Chevrolet, hadn't hit a title yet, even though Don Brown Chevrolet said that's her car, and even though there was even a news story about it, they did not let her get her car out. They said, nope, you got to have a title. She didn't have a title because she just bought the car. She had all the proof in the world it was her car. She was a single mom. She ended up having to have the car repoed to get it out, but she had to pay all these fees, and she got her car back, but it cost her almost like $1,500.
This is the city tow lot?
Yes.
That's
and
awful.
I called the mayor's office. At the time, it was Todd Alderman. They were basically like, well, it's a hard, bad deal. No, she can't take that car. She showed it was hers. She proved it says you only have to prove it was. You can Google the story. It was on Channel 5. It was not that it makes any difference, her color, but it was a young black lady, single mom that just, she believe she worked from Merit or somewhere. She had a reasonable job, but she just bought the car, hadn't had the opportunity to get it titled yet. She brought all the paperwork. Don Brown Chevrolet went over there. They brought paperwork. They said, no, you don't have a title. And according to the way it's set up, you only have to prove it's your car. So her car got stolen. It wasn't that it was towed for tickets or anything. It was a victim of a crime. It was very specific in the way I wrote that, to make sure that a victim of a crime could get their car back within a reasonable time. And I would encourage anybody to Google the story.
Will you shoot me over the board bill so we can look at it and look how we can tighten it up?
It has to be, I don't even know how you tighten it because it's very specific. Says,
I did go to law school for a reason. Can you send me the board bill?
no, I'll get you that. And if you get it, Google it was on Channel 5.
I will look at it.
Shut the hell up.
What's that? But anyway, so yeah, I'm very interested in how we're going to take care of people that, the car was stolen. They're a victim of crime. It's not parking tickets. It's not, and according to her, and even on the news, she said the reason she couldn't get her car back is the one guy said, I'm going to buy your car at auction, and I'm going to get that car, which was like, I don't know.
Okay, and I want to cut that off because we have another person's trying to ask a question. Those will be the kind of things that we will definitely look into, okay?
We'll make sure we cover. Okay.
Okay, all right, Alderman Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So will this be an investigation by resolution, or are we just doing an inquiry based on invitation?
We don't have to, anything that's under your purview, you don't have to have a resolution. So
right,
that's been well settled. So no,
But
it won't be a resolution.
But if you needed subpoena power, you would have.
We could go back and ask for that, right?
Okay.
But first, I want to just see if it you know, a lot of times people make accusations that are just not necessarily true and they don't have all the facts.
That's right.
So I don't, whenever I've done investigations, and I was chair of public safety when they redistricted me, I just have never done that unless I had to do that. You know, if we had to go back, then we did it. But most times people came forward with what we needed and we were able to do it without that.
Thank you. Any
further questions? Okay, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Any objections to, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Great
everybody.
committee.